TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
365 Sports on this Monday afternoon. Good afternoon. This is the SMOAK Show, and we'll take you up until sometime between 5:30 and 6. We have guests, a couple of them, to discuss college athletics and what can get through, rules that can be safe, or how many of them immediately will break a constitutional law or get sued. Craig SMOAK to my right, David SMOAK, good afternoon. And again, we hope you had a really, very good weekend. Sad note, Craig, although really good news, and Ahmad Hardy, the All-American running back at Missouri, was shot at a concert, is in stable condition. He was the SEC's leading rusher a year ago, and he's going to be okay. A phenomenal player. In 2 years at UL Monroe and then also at Missouri, he rushed for 3,000 yards, including 1,649 yards and 16 touchdowns a year ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, hey, everybody. Hello to Chad out there and everybody else watching along. Appreciate you. Hopefully you had a good weekend. And, yeah, this was news that could have been a lot worse, and fortunately isn't a worse story. But, yeah, Ahmad Hardy, one of the better players in all of college football from Missouri, suffering a gunshot wound over the weekend, is in stable condition, already underwent surgery the same day. And, yeah, there's been a lot of statements and things coming out from the Missouri side. But, yeah, he appears to be all right. And not a lot of details outside of that other than, you know, he was hanging out and something happened. So could be talking about something a lot worse today, that's for sure. And hopefully this is something that he can recover from pretty quickly, regardless of his football playing abilities or whatever. I just want him to be okay. So, yeah, scary situation that could have been a lot worse.
All right, so there is that. He was a really good player at UL Monroe before last year having a fantastic year at the University of Missouri. And again, the SEC's leading rusher when it comes to running yards. Julian Caldwell, four-star wide receiver, committed to Texas Tech. Now, this is Tech again now with 5 of the top 11 recruits in the state of Texas. Not many have ever done that. There's been a team or two, program or coach or two that have been able to get a chunk, but 5 of the 11, it's not over. A 6'1", 190-pound receiver. And when I read this, and I know about him because I cover high school football, the Texas Tech was able to get this commitment from Caldwell over both Texas and Oregon. As, again, he now is a part of the Joey McGuire class of 27.
Yeah, really nice pickup for Texas Tech, who's been stacking big-time recruits. And this is actually a couple of days old, but we didn't get around to it. I think it was like towards the end of the show, believe maybe on Friday. But, yeah, just another big win, big recruiting get for the Red Raiders. Right now, based on the last rankings I saw, they are number 2 in the country behind only A&M. They got a couple 5-stars. They got 6 4-stars now, and that's just a slight bit behind the Aggies and still ahead of Oklahoma, USC, Miami, Ohio State, amongst the rest of the usual suspects. So times are good in Lubbock. I mean, outside of the Brendan Sorsby situation, I think everything's gone about as well as it could possibly go over the last couple of years. I mean, certainly wish you would have beat Oregon. But, you know, yeah, beyond that, you've got everything going your way pretty much in every area imaginable, from exposure to talent to finances to wins and all of those things. And they've set a high standard for themselves in a short amount of time. It's a matter now of, can they get to a point where they're winning playoff games, and certainly feel like, despite the Sorsby news, they are capable of getting back to the playoff, winning the Big 12 this year, and then maybe making some noise beyond what they were able to accomplish a year ago. But I think the key thing for them is this isn't just some flash in the pan type of deal. You're seeing them load up in the transfer portal the last couple of years, but you're also seeing them clean up in high school recruiting. And yes, having their way with a lot of the prospects in the state of Texas, the top guys that maybe they weren't always getting before just 3-4 years ago. Now they're landing a bulk of those guys. They're recruiting well nationally. They're top 2 or 3 in the portal. They're top 2 or 3 in high school recruiting. So all that to say that this isn't just a thing for the moment that is going to be a couple years and then they disappear. This is being built for the present and for the long haul as well. So, I'm very curious to see how that combination and just the consistency of it. Here we look up in a couple of years of what that roster looks like and what kind of noise they're making at that point, because they made a lot of noise last year, but really it was kind of the beginning of it all in so many ways. So, nice get for them and just a nice run they've been on in general. All
right, so there we are with that. Nice pickup. And then here's an interesting note. Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, his son's a pretty good player, really good player at a quarterback, class of 2027. And over the weekend, he made a commitment to Northwestern, where the offensive coordinator used to be with Ryan Day. It is Chip Kelly, who's, of course, been elsewhere, UCLA, Oregon, in the NFL. And he will play under the Wildcats' new system with Kelly as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, I guess didn't have the option to play at Ohio State, and probably best to just avoid a conflict of interest or anything like that. But especially if you have other opportunities elsewhere, as he did, not just Northwestern, but a number of other schools that he had visited and communicated with, et cetera. So I think, this is a situation where it's really interesting to see Chip Kelly at Northwestern still. Just kind of have to remind myself that he's there to begin with. And I knew that, and I remember that from the offseason, but then you start to get into recruiting rankings, and you start to see stories like this, and it's, Chip Kelly, I forgot. Yeah, he's at Northwestern. That's right. So, cool for Ryan Day. Cool moment for he and his son, and be pretty cool when they match up one of these days here in the next few years when Northwestern and Ohio State are on opposite sides. But, really don't know what to think of Northwestern overall right now. Really looking forward to seeing that stadium in all its glory. It looks really cool. Colorado's a big non-con game for them, although it won't be at that stadium because I don't think it'll be all quite ready just yet from what I read a few months back. But still, one of those teams that I need to take a deeper dive on, but I'm intrigued by, and certainly, like I said, a really cool thing for the Day family.
Now, you know about the back and forth with Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark and Texas Tech donor, part of the board, and also former player and billionaire Cody Campbell on the Friday night game against Houston specifically, that there was a little bit of drama on Twitter. That's kind of calmed down just a little bit. And now they've finally announced a kickoff for that game between Houston and also Texas Tech during the season. And then I saw this from Kelly Damphousse, who's the AD at Texas State. Among the many things that I love about being in the Pac-12 is that the conference honored G.J. Kinney's request that Texas State football not play on Fridays. That night belongs to Texas high school football. GJ is going to join us tomorrow on this show, this podcast, at 4:25.
So, that's a nice little shot. I mean, I guess a way to take a nice little knock on the Big 12. And, that's cool. Nice on their part to honor G.J. Kinney. I think they're in a bit of a different situation, whereas Fox wants to see Texas Tech on a Friday night. So, if Texas State's in demand like that, then I think the TV networks wanted them to play on a Friday night. I think Texas State would play on a Friday night. I think if you're the Pac-12, you can get a little shot in here and there or at your fellow Texas schools like Damphousse is doing, then that's all fair play, and that's all well and good in college football. We see that kind of all across the board from time to time. It was different little tiffs going on earlier in this offseason. So, just a nice little parting shot, although I don't think it's as much of a land as he probably thinks it is, just simply because I don't think there's the same demand to play on a Friday night. So, nice jab. And I'll see how the new Pac-12 goes. I mean, Texas State's got a great opportunity. They're excited about the move. The new Pac's excited about launching with all these full teams that they have now, and I'm excited to see what that looks like in practice and also throughout the season. So, go make some noise, Bobcats, and maybe we can see them link up with a Big 12 team in the postseason.
So late Friday, another Ross Dellinger story about yet more trying to just figure things out when it comes to college athletics. And can they change things up? What can get through the system? What can get through the legal system? What can be passed? All of that. College sports presidential committees produced a draft preliminary ideas, including establishing a new governing entity, strict cap circumvention, G6 playoff, regionalizing Olympic sports, capping coach and AD salaries, eligibility, transfer students and standards, and pooling TV rights, which is there's some schools that just don't want that at all. However, they did release this on Friday. And one of our guests today, Sam Ehrlich, will join us about what he saw when he first saw this. I did reach out to Cody Campbell, and I said, well, I now know what you've been doing the last, a couple of weeks. He was going to appear on our show. And then, of course, the Brendan Sorsby story popped, and then it was not the right time. But yet another attempt. The SCORE Act is supposed to go to Congress on May 18th, which is a week from today. And I don't know if any of this gets through, but Craig SMOAK, they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, that's all you can say at this point, really, is that they're trying. You can't say that they're not attempting to figure some things out. You can't say they're just sitting on their hands. You can't argue over whether it'll be worth it in the end or whether this amounts to anything. We'll just have to see how the political hot potato gets passed around and what these conversations look like moving forward. I'm not too keen on getting too excited when we see this fresh new thing proposed, because we've seen that happen what seems like dozens of times. It's not that many, but it feels that way. So, yeah, all that sounds good, but is any of it actually feasible? Like, that's the thing. It's like I mentioned the other day, you fantasy book as a fan of like, well, if I wrote the Star Wars movies, here's how I would write them, right? And then you don't take into account, well, there's things like contracts and actor wants and demands, right, and all these things that actually get in the way of you having your perfect vision for something. And I feel like all of us have fantasy booked the perfect way for college football to operate, but can it actually operate that way? And I think we've found multiple times, no, it can't, because of this self-interest or that law or whatever the case may be. This sounds like something cooked up by somebody who's like a fan of college football and wants it all to make sense. But, automatically I see pushback on the G6 playoff thing. That was a big point of contention by fans of schools like Texas State, who you would imagine would be upset by something like that. So, yeah, I think an attempt is better than no attempt at all. Clearly, they've got some of the politicians' ears. It's a matter of kind of, I guess, how they try to thread the needle here and the language of it all. And it's above my pay grade to kind of break down what's feasible or not. But, yeah, some of the ideas make a lot of sense. I'm like a lot of other people kind of in the dark on whether it's actually something they can push through and make a standard, as opposed to just another idea that gets shot down because it doesn't have the right political support.
Well, it wasn't, maybe not seconds, but minutes. Our 5 o'clock guest today is Sam Ehrlich, who is a sports law litigation. He is at Boise State University. And this is his comment literally just a few minutes after Ross Dellinger released that. He said, this task force would very likely be unconstitutional under the private non-delegation doctrine. So he's going to come on today and explain exactly what that means. The legal minds can understand that. We've said this before. This isn't going away, and it doesn't look like anytime soon, because it's always like a whack-a-mole. You just don't know what's going to fit, what counts. And legally, I really don't want to get into that. Otherwise, educate myself and ourselves if we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I just simply don't know enough, and I've read as much as I can, but I don't know, like, I don't have a lawyer background, so I don't know how to just dive into some of this language and just break it down and feel confident and knowing exactly what it all means and where it heads from here. But, yeah, there's going to be a sports reform task force, and we've heard about that. So they recommending that legislation creates the task force to address the immediate issues facing college sports. And it's just a lot of language about framework and reform and this and that. So from Ross Dellinger, the committees include commissioners, AD presidents. Like, this is kind of what we went over when they had the White House meeting the last time around. There's been 3 rounds of meetings. We'll continue working toward a finite set of recommendations intended for congressional use during bill negotiations. So that's just a lot of language about stuff that, again, heads into the political realm. So, yeah, this is all just stemming from the presidential roundtable and Cody Campbell and all the others that were a part of that, giving their ideas, trying to make things work. There's a lot of interesting topics on here. I mean, the elimination of salary cap circumvention, including but not limited to booster collectives and prohibition of redirection of athletic department revenues from multimedia rights, apparel contracts, and other sources. CFP modification and revenue distribution, a G6 playoff, March Madness, schedule optimization, reconfiguration of conferences and or scheduling for non-revenue sports is very interesting because you read that first part and you go reconfiguration of conferences, and then you get to for non-revenue sports. But still, that's notable because all this moving around, and you mean to tell me that like women's volleyball is going to go back to like the Big 12, the way that it was 3 years ago, where Texas is playing Texas Tech or A&M's playing Texas Tech? That would make sense, actually. I don't know how well that will go over with the schools who have made the move to get into those other leagues, but there's still very little detail on how all that would look. So I'm probably just being presumptive. Salary caps on coaches and administration. And it says that implementation of some or all of these measures will likely require some measure of antitrust protection. So that's mentioned at the very end of the list of like, yeah, we still need antitrust protection. Who knows if that's possible or not? But yeah, these are a lot of areas we've talked about, and they're pressing forward, and we'll see. There's a lot of powerful people, a lot of influential people, and a lot of politics involved. So remains to be seen what they'll get done, but there's no lack of effort. We can at least say that. And for a long time, there was absolutely no effort to try and prevent this from becoming a problem down the line, which led to the tsunami of issues that they've been facing now for the last several years. So they can't sit on their hands anymore. So it's good to see they're chipping away at this, but I don't know where it goes.
I have all of these pieces of paper are like 5 different columns, opinion pieces, and like explaining everything. And I've tried to go through them all. And that's why Sam Ehrlich will join us here today at 5:00, and then others that will join us throughout the week as this continues. One of the note before we get to one of the new revenue streams that could be available with the NCAA tournament expanding is that the SCORE Act is on the docket at the House of Representatives next week. Rules Committee meets on Monday. The bill vote, if passed by the rules, would be later in the week. And as most everyone has said, an important point, the SCORE Act most likely would not pass the U.S. Senate, but they continue to push that in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and I don't know the likelihood or the odds of that, but it has some interesting aspects to it as well. So this is something that we've talked about a bit as well, and certainly some good ideas. But again, is it actually enforceable or not? That we don't know. So it can get kind of confusing. The SAFE Act, the SCORE Act, all these different committees. It's hard even for people that follow it to keep track of all these different things. We're going to do our best to try to keep tabs on this and help explain it from time to time. But it's a lot of information to sort through that came out over a 2-3 day period, and easy to get it all jumbled and confused. But the point is that a lot of people in power know that they are at their wits' end and also are running out of time to try and fix this before the government does come in and just take it over and completely change it. And they can still do that even though they are under the guise of help now, which I know is part of the warning from some entities is you're asking for all this help and be careful what you wish for. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they clearly need some help. They clearly need some antitrust protection if that's all possible for some of these things they want to accomplish. I don't necessarily agree with every single thing that they're trying to get done, but I do understand that they're going to need some help, and I hope they understand, like I also understand, that that help can be good, but it can also be bad too, so be careful.
Remember Matt Stahl from AL.com. He's going to join us today, our first guest today on the show. He's the one that wrote the column about horse racing and how they needed federal intervention and how, again, be careful what you wish for. And he will discuss that with us and some other college football notes today when he's our first guest here in just a little bit. Now, speaking of the NCAA men's basketball and women's tournament, expanding, of course, the men, and with the 76 teams People can have their debates about whether or not it needs to be that many or not. It's going to happen. But then I saw this, an important note. March Madness expansion itself wouldn't have resulted in a major boost in revenue for CBS or TNT to get the TV partners to agree to this deal. The NCAA has allowed for expanded in-game advertising opportunities and lifted restrictions on alcohol sponsorships. For example, in the image, as part of the agreements, NCAA will open up new previously restricted product categories. The NCAA Corporate Champions and Partners Program, including beer, wine, spirits, and even hard seltzer, allowing for expanded in-game opportunities for advertisers during the linear and streaming coverage of the tournaments. The value of the rights agreement will increase by $50 million each year on average over the next 6 years.
Yeah, so something that was taboo is not so taboo anymore because you need the money. So now scratch the ban of alcohol sales. I wonder how close, like the Sorsby story is interesting because it just further highlighted and put a big microscope on the gambling side of things, which you can't. I mean, I'm watching the NHL playoffs and the entire time it's just Kalshi ads across the sideboards. And that's all you see. And then it rotates to some other thing, but I have like Kalshi burned in my memory from watching NHL games the last few days. I think you can't really go down the gambling well just yet because how are you going to do that? I mean, you're going to punish Brendan Sorsby and say that you're banned from playing and that this suspension is brought to you by Kalshi. I mean, I think it's a matter of time before they go the gambling route. And the reason why is because they're going to have the money. I think that the kind of frightening part and there's just a lot of doomsday stuff going on. There's a lot of hand wringing, and we talk about a lot of these topics, but I hope we can like still just talk about it and not let it be like a day ruiner or something like that. And it always be the sky is falling like you see a lot of times on YouTube. I think the quest for money is never going to run out though. And so you're going to have to keep overturning past decisions on what you allowed or didn't allow, or you're going to have to uncover some new outlets. And I think at this point, there's really nothing new that's going to bring in new money. That's like some brand new thing other than gambling. And the only thing you can overturn really is gambling or stuff like alcohol. So alcohol seems a lot safer to do right now, and there'll be far less pushback. But the only other lever you really have to pull here pretty soon is gambling. And so that's a tough spot to be in because your rules are set up to where that's the biggest no-no possible. But as we've seen now, these guys and gals in charge have an unquenchable appetite for money and a constant need for it, no matter how much they have of it. And so I don't know. It's like, it's just eventually not going to be there, guys, or you're going to have to basically break down all the walls that made this special and separate. And you're just going to have to be a pro sports league that allows gambling and everything else if you need the money that badly. Does that make sense? Yeah, at some point, there's just no new ideas.
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I couldn't hear myself. But here's an example. The NCAA allows broadcast partners to carry advertising from beer and wine companies. A policy significantly expanded in 2026, which is what we mentioned, to include sponsorship for alcohol brands to help fund the tournament expansion. But up until that means that let's say gin, tequila, whatever, vodka, those type whiskey, not that, but beer and wine, yes. And so that will, again, it's amazing how your not your morals, but your advertising or how you want to make it pristine or whatever, lily white, etc. And then all of a sudden, we need more money to make this work. So let's open up the door to more revenue.
Yeah. So the next thing will be that Jack Daniels is allowed, and then Jim Beam will start seeing those advertisements. And I'm not saying whether that's a good or bad thing. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of everything's on the table now, basically. And the line in the sand that they'll maybe never cross, but I'm sure they're tempted to, is like, I can already see how they're going to say, well, prediction markets are different than outright gambling. They're going to go that route, even though everybody knows that's not true. Everybody knows it's a twisting of the language and really just politics that are involved in prediction markets being allowed the way that they're being allowed right now versus standard gambling. It's all political. People are gaining from it. And so they're, letting it be a little free and loose, I feel like. And the way you can kind of get away with that is to say, well, no, it's not gambling. It's a prediction market. And I think that's something they'll probably end up doing here pretty soon. They'll have the Kalshi ads around Sanford Stadium saying it's not gambling, it's prediction markets, because they're going to need money, because they never are not going to need money. So yeah, they allow some beer and wine, and then eventually that'll probably be the hard liquor, and then they'll look around and be like, we really have nothing but gambling money out there, and there's so much of it out there. Like, how do we figure out how to do this? I don't see what else suddenly opens as a pipeline financially for them. So yeah, we'll see how they kind of toe that line, the forbidden line there, because there is such a large amount of cash on the other side of that. But you talk about like the fabric of the sport and things like that. And yeah, that's a place where it'll be very strange if they go that direction, but I don't know how many other directions they can go.
All right, let's go to a different sport. Again, NCAA athletics could be anything from rowing to basketball, football to lacrosse and track and field. But we're getting close to the end of the college baseball regular season and getting close to the conference tournaments, and then eventually, yes, the College World Series down the road in June. Here is where everybody stands among the top 25 teams in the country when it comes to college baseball. And UCLA has been planted near the top for most of the year. Then you have North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Georgia, and then Auburn. Texas at 6, West Virginia at number 9. There's A&M at 10. And then you can go down the list, KU at 14. It's a nice little list. Oklahoma State there at 21. Arizona State right there at 22. Cincinnati is in it at 25. The Big 12, pretty well represented as they hit the stretch drive for college baseball.
Yeah, that league's got a handful of schools that are well represented. I think there was only a couple earlier in the year, and so they've grown a bit as far as representation goes. UCLA's seemingly been kind of wire to wire. I feel like maybe they've had a stumbler. I know they had a feisty little series with Oregon that I saw some clips from over the weekend, but they've been pretty much on top this entire time. And I know that in recent years this has been a tournament, Omaha, and just a sport kind of dominated by the SEC in a lot of ways. But yeah, there's some teams making it interesting there at the top from the ACC and also the Big Ten. And West Virginia's been really good all year, been super stout and steady. So is Kansas. Didn't have like a lot of predictions or like I just don't dive into baseball like I dive into football or anything. So when I saw the way this kind of started off, it was interesting to see Kansas and West Virginia. Didn't know what to expect from them, but yeah, they've been hanging around and been playing good ball all year. So I'm somebody who gets super into it once we get into the super regionals and everything. Get excited towards the end of the year to kind of see the eliminations and how the tournament gets set up, and obviously the road to Omaha for everybody. So, yeah, not a college baseball diehard, even though I've followed a few more accounts recently to kind of keep more of a tab on it. But it is fun to get to this point and kind of see where everybody stacks up. And looks like a bunch of really interesting schools that can make for a really fun time in Omaha here.
Kansas and West Virginia at the top. And, of course, there's still more games to be played as they hit the weekend coming up. KU, a game up on West Virginia, then Arizona State. UCF won 2 out of 3 in Waco over the weekend. And then Oklahoma State, TCU, Cincinnati, all above 500 in the Big 12. And then Arizona State. This was stunning. Arizona State's softball team won the Big 12 championship. They were under 500 in the Big 12 and then went out and beat the number 1 and the number 2 and number 3 seeds, number 3, then number 2, and then beat Texas Tech for the championship consecutive days, and Arizona State captures the Big 12 softball championship.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I mean, I think everybody just assumed that Texas Tech was going to be the champions, and I know this isn't regular season. This is the tournament, and that this wasn't Arizona State just beating up Nigeri Kennedy. I think a lot of people got caught headline looking and just assumed that was like just what it was, but it was not them just beating Nigeri Kennedy. We'll see what kind of noise Tech makes in the postseason. They still had a really solid year. It does feel like it's been a lot quieter around them, though, compared to a year ago when I guess maybe it was just a little newer. And so you had them in that mix, and it was different because they were a bit of a disruptor, whereas now you just sort of expect it because they played for a national title last year. So this is where they're supposed to be. But it is notable when they don't accomplish every little thing, and not winning the tournament is certainly notable. So congrats to Arizona State. Saw Kenny Dillingham shouting out the softball coach's name escapes me, but shouting her out and just shouting out the program for the accomplishment. So yeah, ASU's had some good moments in the last 2-3 years. That program as a whole, sports department is trending upwards, I feel like. And softball is one reason why. Football is obviously a big reason why as well. We'll see on the basketball front how that goes. But baseball, they were in that bottom half of the top 25, were they not? That we just looked at a second ago.
Who's that?
Arizona State.
Yeah,
they were down there. So I mean, yeah, they're
in baseball. Yeah,
they're having some good success across the board, and that's a nice little trophy to add to the case.
And again, Graham Rossini having a nice run as the AD, and hope we'll get him on this show sometime soon. Here's the bracket. We're not going to let you or expect you to be able to see all of it. Wham! There it is. But what we'll do is go from this bracket, that's the tournament, that's the bracket, to the next thing, which is actually to kind of break it down a little bit more where you can see what it all means. The number one seeds in the tournament are Alabama, Texas, who's the defending champion, Oklahoma, who's won 4 of the last 5, and Nebraska. They are the number one seeds in the country. Now, let's go to the conference breakdown. And yes, the SEC powers themselves into 12 of their teams are in the tournament. ACC, 8, Big 12 and Big 10 was 7. And these are the only schools with more than one, only conferences with more than one. Sun Belt with 3 in the Southland Conference with 2. Those are the conference breakdowns. And here are the teams in the Big 12 who are in the tournament. Arizona, the number to the left is not their national ranking. It is where they are seated in a specific region they're in with Arizona, Arizona State. Baylor got the call. They're not among a top 8 seed. KU, Oklahoma State, Tech, and also UCF.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC, I think a lot of investment, a lot of money being poured into those programs. That's where, a lot of the money's diverted to football and men's basketball, obviously. But I think when you're making as much as they are and the Big Ten are, these are the types of sports where you're going to see differences where you can pour some of that extra money into softball, and I think baseball fits the bill for that as well. So not surprised to see them have some good representation, especially since adding Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, you added like the 2 biggest national championship programs going right now in one fell swoop. So certainly has provided a huge boost the last 3 or so years to the SEC. And they're well represented. No surprise. I think they and the Big Ten should be well represented in every single postseason tournament for every single sport that exists because of the money they're making and the resources they have. But yeah, Texas and Oklahoma, pretty formidable, much less nearly the rest of the league also being a part of this thing. Good number of teams for the Big 12 there. I mean, you just touched on Arizona State's coming in hot, and Texas Tech obviously will be formidable as well. So, good luck to everybody as this gets underway. And I'm sure we're going to see better than good odds that Oklahoma, Texas are like meeting again at the end, although I haven't kept super close track. So if somebody else upsets that, like a Texas Tech, for example, then that's all well and good as well. But it does seem like the Sooners and Longhorns have kind of been running this thing for the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Tech, of course, last year played in the championship game after knocking out Oklahoma. So they dropped to number 11 overall after the loss in the Big 12 tournament. And then finally, this is an NFL note. We do some of that, especially with Craig on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Off the Radar. But this was from today. And I bring this up because the NFL has they are releasing their schedule officially on Thursday, but some things leak early. And Cowboys and Giants will be on Sunday night. This will be the 13th time that the Cowboys and Giants have opened up on a nationally televised game the opening weekend of the NFL season. 13 times, and the Giants are 1-11, whether they play at MetLife or they play at AT&T Stadium. And this is a huge ratings game, but the NFL would have that anyway. But it's this is like, again, they're playing again. Cowboys love this game because they're 11-1 the last several years. But it's interesting that no matter how average, hype, or what with the Cowboys, they're going to get that Sunday night or Monday night game.
I feel like the NFL is pretty bulletproof, and it'll probably always be that way. I know it's coming under some, government heat right now just because of the TV contracts and kind of how all that's working. That's a whole separate thing. But point being, I feel like the NFL is pretty much bulletproof, and there's not too many things they do that cause as much of a stir. I mean, there's definitely conversations about extra games and international games and things like that, but man, they've just had some things recently where I'm just kind of scratching my head. Like, I don't know if it's just the greed taking over or what. But I do feel like the NFL is like, it's not vulnerable. It's not in trouble, but I do feel like there's some decisions that I'm just kind of like, I think y'all are kind of making like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's like
Craig,
it's nothing they're going to feel. I understand that.
They have been through scandals.
No, I know.
They just, nothing seems to affect them.
No, nothing affects them, but it affects me. And so, I'm just saying, like
this could have been any. When they announced the game, I was like, I get why. You have New York, you have the Giants, you have all that, and you have the Cowboys that are in all the markets. But man, I just like to see something fresh and new.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any difference or dent in their ratings, and I'm nothing to them. But I'm just saying, like, I've kind of side-eyed certain things here recently a little bit more than I have in the past, and I'm not going to like turn off my TV when it's on or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know if it's the greed or it's just the evolution and things changing, but. This is as constant as anything else has been for the last decade plus. Cowboys, Giants to start a season, as you mentioned, 13 times now in the last several years we've seen this. And it's all about TV ratings and TV market, and that's it. There's nothing that's interesting about this game outside of that. You can try to sell me on Cowboys, Giants, and the NFC Eastern rivalry. What rivalry? They're rivals because they're in the same division and they had some history, but there's nothing of recent note that is like, ooh, this is like some big deal them playing. We see them play twice a year every year. We've seen them play 13 times to start the season in the last however many years was that?
It has been, I think, the last 17 years.
So 13 out of the last 17 years, we've seen this same match. I'm just over it, man. And so I'm not a Giants fan or a Cowboys fan. Maybe they, as fan bases, absolutely love this matchup and they think it's a great tradition like traditions you see in college football. But what a snoozer to me. I mean, personally, the ratings will be great. They won't miss me watching or not watching, but I don't get the I guess I get the obvious appeal. I don't care about this game at all to start the season.
Here's Albert Breer summarizing this game. Cowboys 791 last year. Doesn't matter. They are still the biggest brand. They've opened the season at noon on a Sunday once in 25 years. It's either a 3:00 game Sunday night, Thursday night, or Monday night. That's how powerful the brand is. Over the last 17 years, they've opened up on NBC either as the kickoff game or Sunday night football game 12 times. They're 11-1, and the Giants dread this game. They're going to be slightly improved. I don't know, maybe better, but it is they'll have 45 million or 50 million watch this game on that Sunday. So that's one of the reasons why, too.
Yeah, they'll have an absolutely massive audience, and New York and Dallas will be right there at the top of the most eyeballs. It'll be fantastic, I'm sure. The Giants better be better. If not, then this offseason was a whole lot of for naught. I think they'll definitely be better based on the moves that they've made, and the Cowboys seem like they're heading in a better direction or an improved direction defensively, at least. So we'll see on that front. But yeah, as far as the matchup goes, being a fan of neither team, I don't care about this game at all.
Yeah, the NFL could put anyone up there and they would get 35 to 40 million or more. By the way, that game begins opening weekend, the full schedule released on Thursday. You'll see more of the other notes leaked in the next 3 days. When we come back, Matt Stahl, he wrote the article. We mentioned it last week, and he couldn't get on with us, but he's the one that wrote the article about the NCAA and college athletics looking to help in Washington, D.C., federal intervention, whatever. And he said, watch out, be careful what you wish for. Matt Stahl from AL.com, he's next. This is The Smoke Show with Craig Smoke and David Smoke on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. As you get older, sometimes in your mid to upper 30s, sometimes it can be a little bit later, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone from energy that it just affects you. You're sapped. You don't have that same oomph that you used to have. You can't get over the hump on a day that's filled with so many different projects and meetings. And it could be your testosterone level, just like so could be your sex drive or performance. It could be your sleep habits. He can help you out. Contact him, pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you. He will set you up for an appointment to get your blood work. He will get the results. And after that, get in touch with you and go, no, you're good. Or no, your T level is too low. And he can put you in a program, give you that option so you can become the high performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Extreme Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox Premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
And here we go. David and Craig Smoke. It is your Bank for Life TFNB Studios, 365 Sports. Every Monday through Friday, we start at 3 and go sometimes until we're done, usually around 5:30, between 5:30 and 6. Matt Stahl, I traded a text or two with him last week when he had the story about horse racing and the help they wanted. And then maybe not so fast, my friend, or be careful what you wish for, because of what has happened with the sport of horse racing with federal intervention. He joins us now on 365 Sport. Matt, we're going to get into some football too, by the way, but your column, what got you involved in that column, and how much does college athletic leaders need to be really, really careful what they want?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they do. The thing that got me into it, sort of comparing the federal intervention that happened to horse racing, and we could come to college football. My first job out of college is actually covering like national horse racing full time. And while I was doing that, feds kind of got involved in horse racing, passed the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act, which created the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. And it was some of the same just verbiage that leaders were using at that time as they are in college sports now, with, you know, the need to bring stability to the sport. And it just all sounded so familiar to me that I just started calling up old sources and, you know, asking if they felt like the federal intervention had brought any stability. And the answer was no.
So kind of outline to us a couple of the examples, if you will, of the parallels that you could draw, like, please government come help us, and then the government comes, and then kind of what unfolded for horse racing that college leaders maybe need to be a little bit wary of from that standpoint.
Sure. I mean, at the time, this all kind of started in 2020, but I mean, there was a bunch of just negative headlines around horse racing at the time, right? Like, there were a bunch of horse deaths at Santa Anita in 2019. They, over the next few years, had some really high profile drug scandals, stuff like that. So, like, people in the game felt like they needed stability, some sort of centralized rules, right? Any sort of just things to stabilize the game. And they've not got that, right? Like, when this bill passed in horse racing, there was no mechanism to fund the thing. So the tracks have been getting billed for it. And originally what they did was, you know, the tracks, like the ones you'd heard of, right? Like Keeneland, Saratoga, Churchill Downs, et cetera. Like, they're paying more because they had more in their purses, which made sense. But then Churchill sued, another thing, a lot of lawsuits against this federal authority, in the teens probably. 3, we're still wondering whether it's constitutional at all. Like, the Supreme Court hasn't decided that yet. But now the small tracks are kind of getting just soaked by the need to pay for this thing. You see a parallel there with the CSC, the College Sports Commission now, right? Like, the autonomy schools, like the Power 4 conferences, are the ones who ostensibly can control this thing. They were the ones involved in the House lawsuit. But if you're a Group of 5 school, like, you still have to pay the CSC a not insignificant amount of money in order to use the NIL Go platform, like, have like the CSE stuff that you have to have if you're going to compete in college sports now. But, like, you have no recourse if you feel wronged by the CFC, if that makes any sense. Like, there's a lot of parallels of, like, this isn't going to be good for the little man in either sport here.
So go ahead, Greg.
So kind of what was, I read through the article, and I encourage everybody else to do that as well. But when you kind of presented this to some of these people and picked their brains on the horse racing side, did you get like oh boy, or kind of what was the reaction on their end?
Well, it's funny because some of them didn't think about them in parallel terms, right? Like, there's a lot of, you know, Kentucky football fans or whatever, talk to some LSU fans who are in the horse racing world, and sort of the same deal, right? Like, they think in college sports, like, it would be good to have some centralized rules. It would be good to have some standardized rules. It'd be like, stability and central governance are not bad things, either side thinks, but yeah, the idea of getting the feds involved, like, the more you kind of talk through it with these people, the more, cautious they are about, like, hey, like, maybe just try and work this out amongst yourselves. And I mean, there's other ways to do it, right? Like, college sports leaders just don't really want to do it another way. They'd rather keep doing it the way where they don't have to pay the players. So they certainly, they saw some parallels. And the more you talk about other industries getting federal intervention, the less, I guess, excited the horse racing people got about it.
Matt, then late Friday, Ross Dellinger put out the article about that presidential committees and leaders and et cetera, and a new kind of like bullet points and game plan. And we have Sam Ehrlich coming on. He's a sports litigation lawyer. And it wasn't 5 minutes after Ross posted that he said this is not constitutional, and certain parts of it was unconstitutional. It's almost as if it doesn't matter what they do. And it makes you wonder what really in the end can they do?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky at the federal level, right? Like, what they're really asking for, and this was a good line by Andy Staples, I heard him say somewhere, they're asking for antitrust protections that the railroads don't get. Like, they're asking the government to put a salary cap on a sport where they won't admit the labor is employees. Like, it's just not, that's not going to happen. Another thing, like, all of these bills include some sort of authority, right? Like federal authority over college sports. They can say it doesn't. It does. In every bill we've seen so far, it does, including like the SCORE Act, the one they all want, federalizes the NCAA. And I'm positive Sam will go over this with you because he did with me in the story. But there's this idea of private non-delegation doctrine that the government kind of works off of, where it's just not constitutional to grant broad government authority to non-government entities, which is what you'd be doing here with the SCORE Act. So like that's going to get challenged in court immediately. And that's a thing in horse racing, like where there's 3 federal lawsuits still trying to sort out whether or not this authority that the government created that is sort of running on its own, technically under the like purview of the FTC, like whether even that's constitutional. So yeah, you're going to get legal challenged all over the place. And I mean, again, like the more you think about it, the more I think it pretty obviously comes back to like, you just gotta admit the players are employees and go from there. Because like, if you don't want a player transferring all the time, you can just write in an employment contract, one that's legally defensible. Hey, you can't move for 2 years, whatever. If you do try and jump ship before the end of this contract, whatever your new school is, owes us $3 million, like stuff like that. Like you have so much more ability to sort of impose what you want on somebody you're actually admitting is an employee than you do just like playing this shell game that isn't legal in any other industry.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. Like there's this chart I came across that compares the SAFE Act that Cody Campbell's trying to push through versus the SCORE Act, which is what the schools are trying to do. And you line those up, man, there's people that don't like Cody Campbell, and I can understand that maybe they don't trust him or whatever, but his solution is so much more on the up and up and like athlete friendly and kind of balanced. And what the schools are trying to do is basically the old way, but just like in new wording, but they retain all of the control. There's like no freedom or anything for the players for the most part. Everything's capped other than for the schools themselves and the coaches. Like it's preposterous, dude. When you really look at the SCORE Act, you're like, so y'all get everything you want and more. And you just hope for this blind shot because the only chance to get this is literally to get like an intervention from the government. And it just seems preposterous when you really look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're just not going to get the stuff they're asking for. And the thing on the SCORE is like, it's not going to pass in anywhere near its current form. It's not going to pass. So you have these athletic directors, you have commissioners, sort of like the people who've always kept the money in college sports, just trying to convince you that this is the only way to stability in the game. And like, it's just like in your current business model, the way you've handled business forever, you're just not going to get the stability. Like eventually you're going to need, now I have questions over a lot of people talk about collective bargaining. I have a lot of questions over whether that makes any sense. Just that like, it's going to be really, really hard to get every 18 to 22-year-old on a college football team into a union like that. But you still get a lot more, you could do a lot more things, even if you're just bargaining individually with these players than you do currently, where, I mean, every time they try to enforce eligibility concerns, they wind up in court. Like I cover Alabama, you know, they're all ostensibly for the SCORE Act and for central governance, whatever, but they're still gonna drag the NCAA to court to try and get a center eligible right before the NCAA tournament.
Of course.
So like, there's a lot of hypocrisy, I think, across the industry, but it's just going to end up with these players are going to need to be employees somehow, and you figure things out from there.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like as people who cover the sport so consistent, it's like the answer is right there. It's collective bargaining, although that's not without its question marks, like you said. And at this point, like there's certain athletes that probably won't benefit from that. Now, like this system's actually better for them because there is no cap and there is no like real rules. But yeah, I don't even know if all the players would go for collective bargaining at this point because we've blown so far past that. But yeah, it just kind of seems like they're throwing wishes out there and hoping their wishes will come true because otherwise they just don't like the reality of where this thing needs to go at this point. I just think it's a lot of denial and a lot of people just kind of hanging on to the way things were, hoping they can last out their days and then let the next round of people have to worry about it rather than just biting the bullet and saying, let's make the change and let's actually change this for the better moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tricky. Like, I get it. Like, the old way of doing business was really, really good for these schools and these ADs and these coaches and all these people. Like, it was great for a really long time. And now it's illegal. And now it's the worst possible place you could be right now. Like, they all have a point, right? Like, everything is very unstable. Them saying this is unsustainable at the current levels of pay, I kind of doubt. I think it's not sustainable if you're like a small school trying to do this. Like, I went to Western Kentucky. They're not going to run a $20.5 million payroll for football. But like, I mean, if you're Alabama, like, you can do this for a long time. You need the player pay situation not to keep doubling every single year.
Right.
But like, the idea that there's this massive like panic attack moment that needs to happen in college football, like, there's just not evidence of that. It just seems like a lot of people really wish they could go back to building stadiums and whatever.
So you cover Alabama. One note about that or two at AL.com. Obviously, they're still good. They were in the playoff, came back to beat Oklahoma, and then they got smothered by Indiana. Kalen DeBoer, year 2, he's won. But the standard there, we know, because of the almighty for college football coaches, what Nick Saban did. Are Bama fans a little bit edgy, a little bit on edge? Where are they right now with where they are in the SEC and the national picture?
I think they're absolutely a little bit on edge, right? Like, again, any other school, you win 11 games, you win a college football playoff game, you go to the SEC championship in year 2, great. Things are awesome. This isn't those places, though. It is Alabama. And I mean, they just looked so bad, I guess, against Indiana. Like, the last taste of this team people got was them just being fully unable to move the ball against the Indiana team that frankly looked a lot like those, 2012 era Alabama teams where would call it the joyless murder ball, right? So there's a lot of concerns for sure. A lot this coming season is just going to rely on, you got an offensive line that's almost entirely new. You got a lot of young guys you're really hoping to develop. Like, if you can get your offensive line in good shape, I think you're probably fine if you're Alabama. If that doesn't happen, though, it could be a rough year.
Yeah, I can see that. And then you have the dudes around him that are all kind of trying to get a little bit better, like Auburn with Golish and Kiffin at LSU, and there's Georgia, and then with Sark at Texas, and then I'm forgetting probably one or two others that I shouldn't. But what a hell of an offseason it's been, and looking forward to it. Matt, good stuff on all the comparisons with horse racing, the federal intervention, or whatever it is. My goodness, one day it would be nice to not have it, but I think that's going to be tough to we'll be waiting a long time. Sam Ehrlich will join us at 5. Have a great week, and thanks for your time today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. That's Matt Stahl with AL.com, and got in a little football, but I did notice he's the one that wrote the story about horse racing wanted federal intervention, and now they are kind of like they're struggling.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I saw somebody say everybody wants a lack of government interference until they want what they want, right? And all of a sudden it's like, come on in, government. I really want this thing. So I was always against you being involved, but now come on and fix this problem for me. And that's basically what college leaders are doing right now is maybe letting the wolf into the hen house. I don't know. But I do think that when you look at all the various reporting going on, it's hard to tell where any of this goes other than if you've not paid any attention to it and you just checked in, you've missed a lot, but you really missed nothing because nothing's ultimately changed as far as these big, broad, sweeping structural changes that have been proposed to college sports or tried to have been passed or voted on or whatever. So, yeah, we're still not at a place that's really any different than we were a year or two ago. Some things have been tweaked slightly that they can control, like their own rules in place. But as far as the types of rules that lead to lawsuits potentially, they still have no answers other than to go to the government and beg them for a golden ticket that just says you can do whatever you want to with no repercussions. And that's just not living in reality. It's not. Any road that they go down, that they appear to want to be going down, is still going to lead to various lawsuits along the way. And it doesn't matter if the government comes in and says, here's your golden ticket, like there's still going to be lawsuits for that. And it's still going to be some parts of it deemed unconstitutional. I know we're getting down the road into legal stuff, but it's the off season, and that's really been a sideshow to this sport now for going on several years at this point. It's not my favorite thing, but it is of interest with all the reporting coming out this weekend. So when there's like updates or anything notable about it, we do check back in on it. But I'm still where I was on the SCORE Act just in general. I mean, you talk about preaching for change and wanting change and claiming you want change and claiming you want rules. The NCAA's proposal, like the SCORE Act that the schools are all on the side of, is so embarrassingly one-sided in their favor that it's just like these people don't live in reality, or they live in their own reality and they just hope that, like has happened maybe their whole lives, like they'll get this to pass somehow miraculously as well, and the world will just end up on their side once again. But SCORE Act, I'll just run it down real quick. NIL rights, they want more institutional control thanks to a federal standard. Employment status, no employee status. Antitrust, they want antitrust that shields the NCAA and the conferences. They do not want to amend the Sports Broadcasting Act because they like the power structure of the TV deals the way they are. Imagine that. Limited health benefits, no long-term scholarship guarantees. NCAA maintains control over all eligibility and transfers.
Oh, how about
NCAA and their CSC gets all oversight and enforcement. NCAA is the one that gets to modify revenue sharing metrics. So it sounds like a great thing, the SCORE Act, for the NCAA. So you can see why they're all for it, because the schools are the NCAA, and they are the reason why we stay stuck in this mud.
Because that gives them everything they used to have that were too stubborn.
But
to give
under
up
government blanket.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're going for. When you realize that they want everything they've always had, but with government protection, and that's all this really is, then you realize like, oh, well, no wonder nothing ever gets done and why there's so many lawsuits, because they refuse to basically budge on anything other than what they've been ordered to budge on. But their proposal, for all intents and purposes, is just a souped up government certified version of the way the thing has always been done, where they have all the power on the money, on the transfers, on the TV deals, on everything. And the student athletes like maybe get a couple of years of health coverage, but then they want to put a cap on the money. Like, so yeah, I'm not anti NCAA. I am pro rules. I am pro having a structure that makes some sense, but I'd be naive to sit there and look at that proposal and say, oh, yeah, that seems totally fair, and not one-sided at all in favor of the NCAA. So, yeah, I'm just not buying the SCORE Act from that standpoint. And not that the SAFE Act is perfect either, but you can easily see why it ruffles feathers, because they haven't fully fleshed out like the antitrust, and they haven't even talked about employment status, to my knowledge, on the SAFE Act part of it. But the rest of it is far more athlete friendly. So does it surprise you when all of a sudden you have unnamed school officials or people in power going, that Cody Campbell guy, he's going to bring down the sport. He's not to be trusted. And I see that now and I go, propaganda. Like, that's what that is, because his version is far more athlete friendly. And I'm just not in the business of rooting for the NCAA to win everything or to have their way and eat it too. It'd be much simpler as a fan if they did, but based on how things have changed over the last few years, there's got to be a better middle ground than old way with government blanket or nothing at all. Like there's got to be a better way.
All right. So thank you. I'm glad Matt was able to come on with us. Tried to get him on Thursday. Wasn't available, was at a graduation Friday. So good to have him. And Sam Ehrlich will give us some more ABCs and Ds on everything college athletics at 5 o'clock. When we come back, they had the NBA lottery. This is not so much about the NBA, it is, but where and who is projected to be among the 14 lottery picks? Where did they go to school? Who are they? We'll do that next. Also, former Florida State and NFL quarterback Brad Johnson, who has two sons who have bounced around different programs in college football, he will join us today at 4:25. And we, of course, at the end, will have quizzes and poll results and the wheel and more. We have Houston, his first day that I've seen him, Logan, Rez, Garrett, and Andrew, all doing their thing behind the scenes for Craig and for me. This is The Smoke Show and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop, 340 east of 84 in Waco, and they have put out some new incentives for this particular month. And in fact, here they are. Got these from David Gray. Right now, if you're hitting the trails, cruising back roads, or just enjoying Texas sunshine, other than that massive rainstorm we had over the weekend, some pretty bad weather, the Jeep Wrangler or the Gladiator, take the top off and enjoy the open air. They have great selections at Allen Samuels, whether pre-owned Jeeps or also ready for your next adventure Jeeps that are brand new, accessories, service to help you get trail ready for that particular Go Topless weekend. That's topless when it comes to your vehicle. Also, the all-new 2026 Jeep Cherokee arrived, and it's bringing legendary Jeep capability with hybrid efficiency with an estimated 37 miles per gallon, combined for over 500 miles of driving range. New Cherokee built for the Texas roads, everyday adventures, and that's the one that I test drove, about a month ago. And it was a Jeep Cherokee, and it was really, really comfortable. Last time I got into a Jeep, it was it's kind of rattling. This is a long, long time ago, before I even moved to Waco, but it was loud and rattling. Nuh-uh. This is very smooth and comfortable. Allen Samuels, they will buy your car, your truck, your SUV, and trade it in and give you money back or use it towards the next car and vehicle you buy. Come by at Allen Samuels, Loop 340 east of 84 with Ted Teague and David Gray and many others. Come by Allen Samuels. Let's be friends.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. The GMC Sierra delivers strength, power, and a refined interior loaded with premium comfort and technology. During Richard Car's 27th anniversary sale, find savings like $9,000 off all Sierra 1500 Pro and SLE models in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
The NBA playoffs, of course, are underway. Some teams have already advanced into the next round. Craig will update all of that tomorrow off the radar on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And there was also the NBA lottery last year. The Mavericks, after they had somehow traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and after never getting any kind of help in the lottery, they ended up with the number one pick. And, of course, they were able to get Cooper Flagg, a hell of a player.
Yeah, it's total coincidence.
Yeah, and so here is, not this year, though. They're number 9. Here is how the NBA, this is from a combo article with ESPN. These are the 14 teams in the lottery and who is projected to be picked. Now, it may not go like this at all, although those first 2 or 3 picks are going to be interesting to watch. Washington with A.J. DeBonsta from BYU. And then the debate about Kansas guard Darian Peterson, who's with Utah. Let's do the first 5. Memphis with Cam Boozer at Duke. Chicago with Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. And we'll stop with at 5, Keaton Wagler, the freshman guard from Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I think DeBansa there at number 1's a pretty clear an easy pick to make if you're Washington. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be Bill Simmons or Russillo or any of these other NBA experts that can like break down the Wizards starting 5 and their bench and their needs and everything. But I do think DeBansa is just a great player, and you feel great about drafting him first overall. I understand there can be some discussion about Peterson. I don't really think there's much discussion in regards to Boozer. Like, he was a nice college player, but there's no part in comparing him to a Darren Peterson or A.J. DeBansa. Like, to me at least, when you watch them play, as far as selling tickets and, like, impact and superstar aura, and, like, Boozer's a nice, solid player, but he doesn't have, like, those characteristics to me.
He's NBA ready, but his ceiling is probably not near what you would get with DeBansa and or Darren.
He's not like a superstar on his own that's going to like lead you to the promised land, like I feel like a DeBansa can. So yeah, or a Darren Peterson for that matter, in combination with some other guys. But yeah, it's interesting to look at and just see some of the names we've been following the last few years and where they might end up when all is said and done. I think DeBansa at number 1's a really good solid projection and potentially bet to make. It was interesting seeing Darian Peterson kind of finally open up on all his I guess issues, if you will, at Kansas. Have you been reading much about what he's been saying during the draft process?
Yeah.
About the creatine.
Yep.
And yeah, that was really interesting.
How it led to some of the dehydration issues.
Yeah, I remember like it's funny as you get older when you see like these fads roll back around every few years, right? Like fashion comes rolling back like every 20 years. So now we're seeing like the stuff I wore in middle school is like popular for kids in middle school and high school again these days, like baggy jeans and stuff. It's funny how that goes. But I remember when creatine was like this big thing in the late 90s, early 2000s for athletes. And I do remember always being told, like, drink a lot of water. Like, don't like drown yourself, but make sure you do drink enough water because it will sap you and you'll cramp up and things like that. So I remember that vividly in regards to creatine. And I guess that's part of what happened with Darren Peterson, because in his explanation, and I guess because of HIPAA laws, and he just didn't want to be as open about it, and in large part HIPAA laws, we didn't get to hear any of this during his stay at Kansas until recently, where apparently he was having like full body cramps at times, and they had no answers for what was wrong with him, and they actually had to like take him to the hospital, and he was fearing that he was dying on some occasions because he was having full body cramps. And eventually he came around to where he said that the culprit appears to have been creatine. So I'm not sure if that's just like, all right, cool, now we know the answer, and now it's off to just he's the greatest basketball player of all time. If that was really what the mystery was, then I'm glad they found that out. I think it's a little bit of a bad look on Kansas's medical staff for them to not have figured this out at some point, if that's the case. But I'm glad that if that was really the reason that he was having to sit out or miss so much time during certain games, that he's healthy, and that shouldn't be a problem moving forward in the NBA. But it was very interesting to see that thrown out there by him and talked about in that interview recently. But he's a great player. That's clearly the big question around him, is just his want to and desire and all those things. So maybe it was a case of the creatine cramps that derailed him at Kansas at times.
I have never been any kind of a musclehead, nor have I ever wanted to be. But when I have, I take a little bit of just a little type, I guess you could say, part of creatine in what I do with my amino energy at the start of the day. I've never had problems with any kind of cramps. And again, we're talking, I'm sure he took a nice chunk of it.
Yeah, I mean, you work out pretty regularly, but compared to a college basketball player, it's probably still a bit of a ways away from being even. And he said high doses of creatine. So if you're taking a small amount, and you know what, believe what you want to, I'll take him at his word, and we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding. I think in the NBA, he'll be a lot more motivated to play more so than he was maybe at times at Kansas. But the cramping thing did sound like it was a scary deal, so we'll see on that. I just found it interesting. Boozer at 3. I mean, those are kind of the 1, 2, 3 guys all along. So
and then Wilson at North Carolina 4. And again, Boozer is like ready. His family, I mean, he's been raised. It's in his blood. He's really solid, but as far as his upside is going to be interesting, he will be a good pro. Wagler, the freshman. And then you have Darius Acuff, who I really didn't pay much attention to till the end of the year. And my goodness, was he fun to watch at Arkansas. Kingston Fleming, we saw him, a Houston freshman, at number 7. Atlanta with another Big 12 player in Braden Burries at number 8. Mavericks with Mikal Brown at Louisville, who might be a highlight reel and could be the perfect caddy and partner with Cooper Flagg with the Mavericks at the guard position. A highlight reel guy. The problem with him at Louisville is his ability to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think this is a big draft for the Mavs and finding that running buddy, as you said, for Cooper Flagg. I mean, rookie of the year, incredible player, franchise foundational piece. Could not have asked for a better Luka replacement. I mean, outside of just wanting Luka, right? But for those fans that stuck around with the Mavs, I mean, they were gifted a absolute great player. So I'm excited from not a Mavs fan standpoint as I used to be, but for that franchise as true fans, not the ones that try to just fast forward through the last couple of years because they just want things to be nice. They don't want to deal in the drama. Like there's a radio host in Dallas who basically from the day the Luka thing happened, basically tried to just get over it. Just get over it because he wanted everything to just be nice and neat and not all controversial. And it was the most annoying thing known to man. I think a lot of people have in time started to maybe get over it. Some never will. But I do think for those fans who are following along with the Mavericks that Cooper Flagg's a huge bright spot. And adding a Mikal Brown or whoever they can get at that 9 spot is something you're very much looking forward to because there is some things in place that can get you excited about the future. And that didn't seem like it would be the case for a long time a couple of years ago.
All right, to close out the rest of the lottery, at least the projections with LeBaron Phelan at Alabama. Then you have Golden State with the big man from Michigan, Luttenberg. And, by the way, there's Jaden Quintains from Kentucky, a very flashy, good player. How about Cameron Carr from Baylor? Was it Tennessee, Baylor? I think in the open game, he'll be good. These are projections, again, from ESPN's panel. And the last one for Washington, Steinbach to Charlotte at number 14.
Yeah, so these are lottery, and this is about the most interesting part of the draft is the lottery at this stage. You've got that second half. There's still some interesting picks and interesting names and interesting teams, but it's also the percentages of them at how much it matters drops pretty significantly, especially when you get into that second round. So I'll be really interested to see the big names in the lottery and where they land. And then beyond that, we'll just kind of play it by ear. But some fun players who are on the road to living their dreams. So good luck to all these guys.
The SEC, Big Ten, and also ACC represented well. The Big 12 with the number 1, 2, and then number 7, 8, and number 13 projected players among the first 14 the lottery picks in the NBA draft. When we come back, former Florida State quarterback Brad Johnson His sons are in college football. He's experienced as a family the transfer portal and more. His thoughts about FSU and Mike Norvell and where the Seminoles are, and a look back at his career, too, at Florida State and as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK. This is the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports. QC Kinetics, a place that has helped me get a lot better. After 4.5 to 5 years of having, when I wake up, get out of bed, this immediate tug in my right hip. At MRIs, no structural damage to my muscles or ligaments or even bone on bone. It just was something that was sore, and more than just sore. So then I tried some injections and they didn't work, or maybe if they did, for just a couple of weeks to kick the can down the road. And then last September, because a friend of mine said, hey, have you been to QC Kinetics? I went and visited them. A free consultation at QC Kinetics. A free consultation for them to tell me how they do what they do by using what is inside your body, my body. For example, drawing blood, spitting it, and putting it back into where I hurt, whether it's in your shoulder, your elbows, your knees, or in your lower back or around where my right hip was sore. And then eventually there's platelets or plasma or even stem cells, bone marrow that they spin and put it back inside your body. And now running consistently Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, a mile. Friday was 2, and that's it. But it's better than not being able to do anything. Like I couldn't even jog 15 steps, if that long, and I shut it down. Mentally and physically a lot better. Feels good to know I can do all of that, and it wouldn't be done without QC Kinetics. The number's on the screen, 972-972-8610 in Dallas, and in Houston, 713-913-5285. A free consultation. Get better now. It works. It's worked for me, and I want it to work for you at QCkinetics.com.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery,
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. By the way, tomorrow, I mentioned this, Texas State football coach G.J. Kinney will be one of our guests, and so will UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir. He will join us as well tomorrow on the show. Tim Brando Wednesday, and others as we fill out the rest of the week. Waiting on Brad Johnson. He'll join us here momentarily. I did see this story. Did you see this one, Craig? Jeremiah Love, the running back Notre Dame, who was drafted by Arizona. All of his money, 4-year, fully guaranteed, $53.2 million rookie contract, and he is not, he says, going to touch a nickel of it because the NIL money is so good, he doesn't need it at this particular time.
Yeah, I saw this story making its way around all the aggregators over the weekend, and yeah, it's a cool headline. I mean, it's good living in college football right now. You see why some guys are suing to try to stay in college football, and if some guys had their way, they'd be lifers in college football because the money is so good right now. So, yeah, that's the kind of life-changing sort of difference that this money can make. That you think about guys going back to Brad Johnson or to Earl Campbell or to I saw Adrian Peterson in the news. He's getting into the Vikings Hall of Fame here coming up, or Vince Young, or like all these guys. How much NIL money could Tim Tebow make? Back in his day,
as much as he wanted,
like $10 million.
Yep.
So yeah, all those guys got whatever $100 handshakes and envelopes in the locker and cars on loan and everything like that. But yeah, compared to today's game, it's not even the same sport off the field. And so, yeah, you have a guy who can enter the NFL or not feel the need to enter the NFL because the money's so much better in college, or it's so good in college that you can just be patient and wait. And yeah, Jeremiah Love, just a guy on the record saying as much. And it must be nice to not have to touch that, just let it live on interest or whatever in your various setups. But yeah, I think financially, players are so much better off now leaving college than ever before, in good ways, and then probably in some bad ways, but not enough in bad ways to lead you to believe that this is a bad thing overall by any means, because this is an absolutely great thing for Jeremiah Love and the future generations of his family.
Yeah, I think that's great. I when I thought about it, I was like, man, then I realized, yeah, he made a bunch of money in his years at Notre Dame.
And imagine somebody who would look at that and say it's not a good thing. And I can't imagine there's much of that out there. I didn't seek it out, but there's just so much anti-players getting paid and all that. I just think the more you say things like that, and I think people have kind of weeded themselves out, but the more you just kind of tell on yourself that you have no interest in like whether things are right or wrong. Players should have been getting paid all along. We can argue or disagree or whatever about the method to the madness or the timeline of it all, but Jeremiah Love earned a lot of money for Notre Dame. He deserved to be rewarded for that. He got rewarded for that. And again, it's just a shame that there's a lot of generations of guys who missed out on that opportunity, but I'm glad that that's not the case any longer. And don't know if it's better or worse for the NFL ultimately, but it's certainly a great thing for young players these days across various sports. And Jeremiah Love seems to have a good head on his shoulders, so hopefully he's a man of his word and smart with that money. And if so, then yeah, the Love family is going to be living pretty well for generations to come.
Yeah, to not have to touch any of it. That's good. And then one
sponsorships
of the things,
too from the NFL, like he's getting his Nike deal or whatever he signed to. So that also plays into it, making millions off of that. But yeah, I did want to say one thing about the NBA mock. Utah, I didn't touch on the fact that they landed at number 2, and they got into a little bit of trouble for tanking during the course of the season, as that was a big thing during the past regular season, was the tanking topic, to the point that they're trying to come up with new rules to address it. But Utah right there, number 2, they could still get AJ DeBansa. I mean, he could maybe not go number one to Washington, and if so, that would be pretty cool for him and certainly for BYU fans and fans in the state of Utah to land a great player like that. But just narrowly missing out on that becoming a surefire thing where you have the first overall pick. So that had to be, as somebody who's kind of experienced it before, I know it's like a nerve-wracking kind of nail-biting scenario, but Utah being one spot away from guaranteeing the ability to draft DeBansa is high drama right there.
All right, we are now joined by Brad Johnson. Played many years in the NFL, played quarterback at Florida State, 2 sons in college right now playing college football too, and he won a Super Bowl as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joins us on 365 Sports. It's great to see you, Brad. Thank you very much for your time. Your thoughts about, you have 2 sons, and they have been around when it comes to college football. So you have, as a family, they have individually experienced this transfer portal that is allowed these days. Your thoughts about, and what's that been like to maneuver?
It's good and bad. It really is. Every situation is different. There's been a lot of success stories. There's been a lot of failures with it. I think what happens a little bit with the NIL part of it, sometimes, everybody always thinks the kid is just leaving on their own. Sometimes these schools are kicking out these kids because they're bringing in other kids that are making more money. So that's the truth on some of it. So it's hard. You want a kid to be able to make sure, number one, that they get their education, they're able to get a degree. If they do transfer, sometimes it's hard. A lot of those classes, they don't actually transfer over. And then to get a master's is tough. But my kids have been through the gamut for different reasons. Right now, my son Max, he went through a major injury 2 years ago, broke his femur, but he's 100% healthy right now. And now he's at Georgia Southern, absolutely loves it, loves the work ethic of Coach Clay Helton and the staff there. It's just an awesome fit for him at this point. And he'll still have a chance to make it the NFL. And then my other son, Jake, who's a tight end, he transferred to Auburn, and great situation there. They love the coaches, respect the program, so it's an awesome move for them to finish out their last year in school.
Well, that's great to hear, because I was going to ask about both your boys, especially Max, in light of that injury that you mentioned, that a lot of people saw that and how tough that was. That's incredible news to hear that update there. Brett, having experienced like the old traditional way yourself, and then you just kind of touched on the new way, I guess the positives are like the money and the freedom and all that, but like, how do you kind of view it, having experienced it yourself firsthand, both as a player and as a parent of players? Where do you sort of find yourself when thinking about like the current structure and how things kind of operate?
Well, when I was at Florida State, Bobby Bowden, unbelievable coach, all the respect in the world for him. And I keep saying the respect. It's incredible. Mark Richt was my QB coach, who became a College Hall of Fame coach at Georgia and Miami. But, in our room, we had Charlie Ward, who won a Heisman National Championship. Chris Winkie won a National Championship Heisman. Casey Weldon was the runner-up. Peter Tom Willis played 4 years in the NFL. Danny McManus later on played 52,000 yards of Canadian football. And there's only one football to start. And it kind of worked out back in the day, like you might only have 1 year to play. And that was told to us coming in as incoming freshmen. And, we all hope to be redshirted and be slotted our year. Now it's different now. Entitlement's different. The 4 or 5 star rankings different. The kid comes in with power. Not always the best player gets to play sometimes, or given that, it's like in the NFL, like if the kid's drafted first pick of the first round, he's going to get more of a longer leash than a kid that's in 5th round, not necessarily playing the better player right away. So that's the truth of the matter. But there's been a lot of success stories, a lot of failures. It worked out for me. I was actually getting ready to I was a basketball player at Florida State, played 2 years. I wanted to go back and maybe, I was backing up my senior year, going into my last year. I hope my dream of playing in the NFL. I thought about quitting. I thought about transferring. I thought about I'd have to go to a lower level at that time. I thought about going.
Well, we lost him. So see if we can reestablish him, Rez. When we do, we'll get him back up. That's right where big part of that interview when it comes to what he could or couldn't do back in the day at that particular time. We'll see if we can get him back on camera. But it sounds, they were both with North Carolina. His sons were with North Carolina and Belichick, and they both left. Georgia Southern is one, as we mentioned, and also with Auburn and what they're doing there, the quarterback and also the tight end. And remember, we've had conversations. There he is again. We got Brad back on. Let's get back to where he is. There we go, Brad. Sorry we lost you. We lost you. Go ahead and you were picking up about the experiences, what you were going through.
Yeah, so for me, I stuck it out, and then I got drafted, and somehow it worked out for me, and it doesn't work out for everybody else. And I came out when Casey Well was the runner-up to the Heisman, and there's only been 2 quarterbacks ever drafted the same year. It was Billy Joe Holbert, Mark Brunell, Casey Well, and myself. But now the way it's designed, like I think the only money we made was $10 per diem after a game. So, everyone has agents now. It's the world of the NIL. And so it just, I think the biggest thing is, be great at your craft, and hopefully someone believes in you, gives you a chance to play. Then you got to prove your worth when it's time. And so it's just a different era of life in college sports.
Because of that, you could have a quarterback room, like you said, that was loaded, especially, my goodness, Florida State was so good, and Bobby Bowden, et cetera. Sounds like there's probably a chance you might have left if that opportunity was different back in the day. We've talked to other quarterbacks who had to wait their 3 and 4 years. Do you feel like that probably would have been what you'd done? Because you could only go, as you said, to a smaller school or be a grad transfer.
Well, everybody's situation is totally different. Again, I played 2 years of basketball at Florida State, and we, redshirted, and we were kind of waiting to hopefully be our senior year. I wasn't ready to play as a freshman or sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Those days were different back then. You had to meritocracy was real. You had to earn your way. And now, there's, if they pay for a kid to come in there to be the guy, there's going to get a little bit more attention to that guy. And that's the reality of it. They have AI programs on how much kids need to play a certain playing period of time of how much they've been paid. And you want it to be real. Listen, you want it to be real about who is the starter, and they earn their way. And most of the time, I'd say that's probably true. But then if a kid has a situation that's a tough situation, that they brought in a certain kid over him, and you're in your last year or two, then man, you got to survive. If that's your goal, to make it to the next level or play, then you might have to transfer. I do like what's happening now. You do get, I think, one free transfer, then you have to deal with it. But it's tough when new coaches come in, new general managers come in. It's a different time, guys. And I hate it for the high school kids having to deal with it too. It's tough on the high school kids being recruited. If you're a college, they're going to take a transfer kid, a 22, 23-year-old kid over an 18, 17, 18-year-old kid coming out of high school, because they got to win too. So I get it. You're happy for kids that do make money. Not every kid on the team makes money. Let's be real. That's, you wish it was spread upon where every player on the team made some amount, then maybe by position or by level play, they kind of got a bonus, or, the level play, they got more money. But that's the part that doesn't get told either.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And I'm glad you kind of fleshed that out, that these aren't all just the athletes making decisions. There is some get out of the way. We got this guy coming in. You need to go find something elsewhere. Or, hey, there's $50 million rosters. Well, 45 of that's the top 10 guys or whatever, right? So, on Florida State, where do you kind of find yourself with the program right now and just the direction? Mike Norvell, everybody knows, major success a couple years ago. It's been very hit or miss since then, mostly miss. How are you feeling as a Nole, and just kind of what do you expect in this upcoming season?
Well, I'm a Nole fan for life, and I had some certain situations with Coach Norvell pull up in the recruiting process. It was kind of a long time ago, and the transfer stuff, and I just had all the respect in the world for him, to be honest with you. The way he handled things and the way he dealt with us, he was great. And so I'm still excited about the program. When he came in, he had a lot to clean up, guys. And 2 years ago, they should have been a Final Four team, and things happened with the quarterback, and then everybody left, for the bowl game, getting ready for Georgia. Then it just kind of they had to rebuild through the whole NIL thing. Last year or two, it's kind of struggled, but I'm pulling for him. I believe in him, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that Jordan Travis injury was just first of all devastating, and the fact that they were good. I'd love to have just seen with their team intact what could have happened. I hate that they were left out of that. How much do you feel like that was just hard to overcome emotionally because they were also in the headlines wanting to leave or maybe not or whatever else? Did that wear down the program?
I no doubt about it. I mean, I think earlier you have to look at the teams that they beat that year. They actually beat LSU too now. Like they beat a couple of SEC teams, I believe, and then they win the bowl game, the championship bowl game with the backup quarterback, and then when Jordan Travis was out, then they decided not to put him in the Final Four, and then you just go in and play another bowl game, and you got a lot of those kids that were. I mean, they had 12, 13 kids get drafted, and you understand why some kids don't play in necessarily the big bowl. Kind of get, you don't want to get hurt and get ready for the combines and your career kind of moves on. So I don't blame those kids for making those decisions at all. But then it put a sour taste in their mouth when you go down there with 22, 23 kids missing, play against a, loaded Georgia team. And then everybody thought that was Florida State's best team, and it wasn't. You're missing a bunch of starters. So, and then it probably had a hard time, reloading the team the next year, which it kind of struggled. But that was a team that definitely deserved to be in the Final Four, no doubt about it.
Brad, Bobby Bowden was one of a kind, will always be one of a kind. Just a phenomenal personality, hell of a coach, obviously could recruit. What was he like? Give us a Bobby. What was the recruiting story like? And then maybe a couple of Bobby Bowdenisms, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, Coach Bowden was incredible. He had a staff that was there forever. They were before their time, obviously before all this transfer and NIL part of it. But I remember when he came into my house, I think he was 63 at the time, which we thought that was old. I think he had 180 wins, and I remember he gave his spiel to me. I lived in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and about Florida State. He says, "Do you have any questions for me?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I got 2 questions. One, do you play the best players?" And he always played the best players. And number 2, I said, "How much longer do you think you're going to coach?" So I think he coached till he's 83 or 84 or something like that. And he ended up with, I remember when he won his 200th game, he called a special meeting. And I told my roommate, I was like, instead of our meeting to be at 1:30, he called a 1:00 meeting. And I told my roommate, I said, I don't know, man, 200 is kind of special. I don't know if he's announced his retirement or whatever he's going to do. And what he actually did was he gave his testimony to the team. And that was an incredible moment. That you just don't hear those kind of things in college football or in much of sports at this time. And I remember when at Florida State back in 2013, they named the field after him, Bobby Bowden Field. And we had over 400 some odd players that had played for him. And we lined the field from the goalpost all the way out to midfield. Him and his wife, Ann, they walked out to midfield. They were going to spike the spear into the middle of the field. And we weren't talking about how many bowl games he won or how many championships he won or how many games he won. Or we were really talking about how he had impacted our lives as men, how we've become husbands and coaches and people in the community, and just how first class of a place it was at Florida State that he'll always be a part of me. And so when I get to say that was my coach, I'm proud to say Coach Bowden was my coach. And he was smart like a fox. He just had a way of, he was known for running trick plays, the punt rooski and those kind of things. And just had a great knack for getting the best out of people and those kind of things as far as coaches and players. And it's just incredible to say he was my coach.
What was it like? What was it, 93? I know you had left. You were in the NFL with Minnesota, but all those times that Florida State, Brad, was knocking on the door, those unbelievable games with Miami, and just incredible. Imagine a playoff of 4 teams back in the day. They would have been every year. Right. And I'm a Nebraska fan, but to go back to they have that game won, and then there's the late pass timeout. Nebraska missed the field goal to see him finally win it all.
Yeah. In 1987, that was the beginning of a 14-year run, finished in the top 4 every year. That was the beginning of it all. And he won 2 national championships, might have lost 2 or 3. But it was just like we had a couple wide rights, we had this or that happen, but it was like, the program, it was just so consistent that eventually it was going to win, it was going to break through and have that national championship caliber team. And he probably could have won 8 or 9 during that time and ended up winning 2. But his life wasn't solely just, surrounded about just trying to win national championships. It was about impacting lives, and he did that for all of us. But that was he put forth. There's a show called The Bowden Dynasty. You can probably find it on YouTube or something like that. It was an incredible take on what he did for that university coming there in the 70s. He took a lot of the football money at that time, put it in all the other sports, girls sports, and made it the school that it was. It was a girls' school at one time, and and he made it into a football powerhouse. And so it's pretty awesome that what he did for the school, Tallahassee, and all of football, to be honest.
Brad, you won a Super Bowl as a quarterback with Tampa Bay. You had put up a lot of yards, and it was a journey for you. You ended up at the end with Dallas, and of course Minnesota twice, Washington, and then Tampa Bay. Dungy built that Tampa Bay team, and then of course there was the change, and Gruden took over. What was that experience like to win it all with Tampa Bay?
It's something. I played 17 years, was probably on 5 legit great teams, probably on 6 or 7 other really good playoff teams, and 2 or 3 teams that wasn't, good enough to make the playoffs. But that team, it was Coach Gruden came in there. He made about 19 or 20 moves in free agency, brought in Keenan McCardell and Joe Jurevicius and Robin Oben and Michael Pittman. And just a lot of moves. We already had Allstott and Keyshawn Johnson, but he got the best out of our team. He made our defense better. And the first time I met Gruden, he's like, Brad, we're going to win a Super Bowl this year. And, he declared war on our defense. He's like, Brad, how's, Rondé Barber and John Lynch and Warren Sapp and Derrick Brooks, how they going to stop blast off the Joker right X short 22X drive halfback burst? How they going to stop U shift the green left F short spider 2 wide and Z overheads up for 359 smoke? Like, we're going to make it competitive in practice. You know what I mean? So, and that's what really happened. We were 3-1 in every 4 games, and we got hot at the end of the season. And he made our team. He just took our team to another level, and to win a Super Bowl, like, I can't tell you how many times in my life I've been sitting there on the couch eating chips and dips, and like, you sit there, watch it, like, golly, that's unbelievable. The next thing you know, you're in that game, and confetti was falling on my face, and I got to say I'm going to Disney World and doing all that thing with my son Max, 2 years old in my hands, and my wife Nikki was 7.5 months pregnant with the other son Jake. Like, it's an incredible moment to say you're on the one best teams in America, and you're the best quarterback for one moment in your life, and they can't ever take it away from you. We're all bonded for life. We had 4 guys make it to the Hall of Fame in Brooks, Rondé Barber, who else was in there? John Lynch and Warren Sapp, and Simeon Rice. He may have a chance at it. So it's pretty incredible looking back. We had so many great coaches too. Mike Tomlin, Monty Kiffin, Rich Bisaccia.
Lovie Smith.
No, he had left us. He had left at that point. Raheem Morris was a quality control guy. So it's just, we had a hell of a staff, you know what I mean? And so it's pretty cool.
Last thing.
Was that the mountaintop for you, Brad? You've done so many cool things, won big games on all levels. You still got like interest in things, but like, was that Super Bowl, was that like the validation or just like the apex moment you feel like kind of completed and made everything full circle for you?
Yeah, it kind of validates your career and what you accomplished, throughout your career. But, the thing I say about a Super Bowl or those kind of things, it's not a vote.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a vote. It's not a fan vote. It's not a selection. You either win it or you don't. And it's a dream come true. A lot of guys don't ever get that chance to do it. The guys that have lost it, they probably say the game was overrated. The guys that win it, they probably say it's one of the best days of their life. And all those guys will always be bonded together. It's a special group of guys that just had grit, loved the grind of the game and what it took. And we had some breaks go our way too. So we were fortunate enough to be in that situation and just came through when we had to.
Man, I'm so glad, Brad, that it worked out. How's your body? I know you went through some changes to help the healing of playing football for as long as you did.
Yeah, listen, I just went through my second knee replacement. I had my right one done about 3 years ago. I had my left one done about 2 weeks ago. So I'm feeling good right now. And so I'll be playing golf here hopefully in the next 2 months. So we'll see what happens. But I feel great otherwise. Just had some life had to do with my knees here a little bit lately. So, but I'm doing great though.
I can see why. Tell both Max and Jake we said hello. Appreciate what they do. And good luck juggling all that with the schedule as they head into 2026, and I know you will. Good luck to you and your family. Thanks for your time today.
Awesome. Appreciate having me on the show. Thank you.
Brad Johnson with us, longtime NFL quarterback, 17 years, won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Great stories on Max and also with Jake, as they are now at Auburn. Jake, the tight end, and Max, the quarterback at Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I mean, that injury to Max a couple years back that could have been far worse and was about as bad as I think most people have seen. Yeah, I'm glad to hear. I mean, it's been a couple years and he came back and everything, but still, it's just I remember that vividly, watching that and like hearing people talk about like amputation and things like that. It was crazy and just horrific and
it was
sad.
bad.
And I just remember kind of sitting in that moment watching that, and you see like his family's reaction, and they're horrified because it's like right at the beginning of the year and you've already been through so much and everything. So yeah, that was great to hear that. Just in general, all that's good. I mean, again, it wasn't just like 6 months ago that happened, so time has gone by, but I remember it like it was about 6 months ago and at the beginning of last year or something. But yeah, good to talk to him. That Super Bowl makes a world of difference when we win something like that. And to his point, it's not something that you get voted on by your peers. Like, you have to go out and earn that. So that Bucs team, I remember pretty vividly, had a lot of great players, multiple Hall of Famers, as he pointed out. And I remember Brad Johnson's kind of being the guy that was like not the star quarterback, but that won a Super Bowl, right? And there's been various others examples of that, but to have that on your resume, to just sort of validate things like he said, and to just flat out earned it, not with any help, not you got voted into this game or whatever. Yeah, you just feel how much that matters and how much that completes a guy when they have that versus the guys you talk to that don't have the ring, and how much that like is an asterisk on their career or can feel that way. So yeah, think he's cautiously optimistic about Florida State. And I know he was very much optimistic about Norvell and shortly after the whole Jordan Travis situation. But yeah, it's been a rough couple of years. So I think he's probably like a lot of other people of like, hey, we believe you can get it done, but like, you got to get it done now, pal. I mean, Norvell's not the hottest seat in America entering this season, but I think he's not far back in line. I would just say that like Dave Aranda's on a hotter seat overall, I feel like, but he's far less interesting, I think, than the Florida State situation, probably nationally. So he's not thought of right away. Whereas Norvell, I think when you talk about the hot seat next year, he's like one of the first names you come up with because it could have been the last couple of years and they've stuck around and stuck with him, but it does feel like, all right, it's make or break for the Noles this year with Mike Norvell. Yeah,
they got to show more than just a bowl appearance. They need to ramp it up and be very competitive. This is an unbelievable note. Also, thank you for his time. It was great. He just sent us a nice text as well. Wants a segment for us to send it to him. Thank you to Brad Johnson. For that stretch from 1988 to 2000 for FSU, they were 152-19. 152-19, and maybe 7 or 8 of those losses were to Miami, and won the 2 national titles. That's consecutive years of winning. No more than 2 losses in all of those years that I just kind of combined together. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that there's still some modern examples of teams that are in a similar boat. Like, what's Ohio State's record over the last few years? Probably not quite that, but pretty close to that, I would think. But it does feel like some of those sort of dynasty-type programs are going to be fewer and farther between maybe these days, because it's not a matter of you build up the program, you develop it, you just churn it over every year, and you just keep growing it and forming it and all that. Now it's literally a year-to-year business in a lot of cases, where a team's almost unrecognizable from just 11 months ago or 7 months ago. So yeah, I think those Florida State teams back in the late 80s, early 90s, that whole run by the Noles is certainly a huge part of my childhood, along with Miami and Nebraska. I think those 3 teams, probably above all others, kind of define the 90s to me, and that's my wheelhouse of watching college football. So yeah, FSU these days, Nebraska these days, longing for that. Although for FSU, they've been close somewhat recently, although it's feeling farther away the longer they have Norvell kind of just sort of, I guess, being middle of the road, if not a little less than middle of the road. But yeah, a couple programs are hurting while Miami's they're thriving, playing for a national title. So hopefully FSU can get back to that, because yeah, those 90s FSU teams were just unbelievable.
You asked about Ohio State, Craig. It's crazy. From 2012 until through last year, they never lost more than 2 games.
Yeah.
But the difference between their run and the one that Florida State had, or I think Nebraska had a 60-3 run in the mid-90s. But the difference is there are years where they have 14 wins. And like twice because of the extra games because of the college football playoff. What an unbelievable stretch.
Yeah, and I will say, too, I mean, FSU obviously had success outside of the 90s.
Sure,
I mean,
they did.
Playing Oklahoma for the national title, winning with Jameis, so on and so forth. So they've still been around. It's just these last couple of years have been really tough. But the 90s is just like, that's my nostalgia hit is that time period. So yeah, them, Miami, and Nebraska all just immediately kind of give me the warm and fuzzy feeling of watching college football back then. And that's a fair caveat to point out. I will also point out they also didn't have to play like 4 postseason games against top 10 teams,
right?
Like Ohio State had to win a national championship or to be in the playoffs. So more opportunities to win bigger games, but also more games to play against better teams. So, yeah, that just, I think, speaks to how great Ohio State's been, because they've had to play a lot more of those playoff-style games, not just the bowl game at the end of the year that was based on conference affiliation, not the rankings or seedings or things like that.
Yeah, I'm going to add it up. Ohio State, 210-27 since 2000 and whatever. It goes back to 2000. Oh, not don't yeah. Back to 2005. No, 2012, because they were 6-7 in 2011. So that's an unbelievable stretch. Crazy. Sometimes 14 wins during the season.
Yeah, FSU couldn't win 14 games back then, but they also weren't playing as many. So tomato, both great. And yeah, the 90s FSU run was awesome, but Ohio State's on a tear right now with some others popping up in their own league, like Indiana and Michigan, obviously here as of late. But yeah, pretty crazy when you put it in like record perspectives and you go, oh, damn, they're like 102-3 or whatever kind of crazy numbers you pop out on the other end of what stat it is.
And I'll do Saban and Alabama in the break. Coming up, Sam Ehrlich, sports litigation and all of what's going on. We had Matt Stahl on earlier, and now Sam looks at what the latest that this presidential sports committee is trying to do. Is it going to even get off the floor? I hope for college football and all of sports that eventually we get to that point where you don't have all these lawsuits. But I think that's going to be tough to do. Sam tells us what he thinks. We appreciate your time. You tell us what you think. This is 365 Sports and the Smoke Show. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco. Behind my left shoulder, you'll see their logo. Ideal MRI will get a couple of things done for you and for your doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, he or she, if they need a little bit of a better look at something that's bothering you. I've told you about the story of my hip. Nothing structural, but maybe there was something. Maybe it was bone on bone. Maybe there was a fracture and we didn't know it. Ideal MRI has state-of-the-art imaging, and the cost for an MRI it's $497 or less. $497 or less, when the average MRI around the country is $1,100 or $1,200, and even some can be much higher than that. Ideal MRI will also help file the insurance to see if you can get even more off of the $497. Dr. Rob Maxey, from even before we started this show, which launched on April 6th of 2020, he contacted me and said, we want to be a sponsor of the podcast. And he was with us on the radio station prior to us getting into the YouTube business. But he said, day one, put me down. Just use our logo and eventually we'll get you a commercial you could run to. And I have been inside that machine 4 times, $497 or less every single time in 1 year. Nothing because of Medicare, because of my age. It's IdealMRI.com. And Dr. Rob Maxey has been phenomenal to us, and we appreciate what they do too. Inside the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
All right, here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. And I've been watching Sam C. Ehrlich, assistant professor at Boise State University, ex-lawyer who now writes about college sports law, finds it neat. It's a lot of it to write about, also tracking litigation involving college sports with the College Sports Litigation Tracker.com. And Sam joins Craig Smoke, David Smoke. Thanks for your time, Sam. We appreciate it. So Friday afternoon, there's the report with Ross Dellinger about the newest game plan or what the presidential committee was going to try to figure out. And it wasn't much later than you put out, this task force would likely be unconstitutional under the private non-delegation doctrine. It's because you understand the legal system. So why then would they have put all that out knowing that that's probably the case?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here and happy to talk some college sports law. Big fan of the show.
Thank you.
And yeah, they honestly may just not know. I mean, we have a few different legislative proposals out there. The big one, of course, is the one we had news on earlier today, the SCORE Act, which I'm sure everyone's heard a lot about, just in terms of what it would try to do, but also the fact that it, and as Ross Dellinger reported earlier today, even if it does pass the House of Representatives, it's almost certainly not going to pass the Senate without significant modification. So kind of part and parcel with those discussions, part and parcel with that movement, President Trump has put together this Presidential College Sports Reform Committee, a bunch of athletic directors, college presidents, just a bunch of people in the space. And they came out on Friday with this executive summary of what they would want to see in college sports legislation and, what they would want Congress to do. And really, I mean, with the SCORE Act and with this, with this process roadmap, objectives, and preliminary recommendations, the theme, a lot of it is a lot of the same. And this is where, what I talked about with the private non-delegation really comes into play. They want Congress not necessarily to do things that, directly regulate college sports, but they instead want to give the NCAA or a new task force under this proposal the power to do it themselves. And that's something where there's a lot of constitutional issues with that. That's something where, the Constitution does come into play here, because the prevailing rule has been Congress can regulate industries themselves, but they can't delegate their power to legislate to private entities, especially ones that have economic conflicts of interest in play here.
So, Sam, when I read like the SAFE Act and the SCORE Act and the comparisons, I was saying this earlier, it's no surprise Cody Campbell kind of ruffles feathers, because he actually gives some leeway to the players and does give them like health benefits and things of that nature. And I know it's not all sorted out like employment and things like that, but compared to the SCORE Act, I mean, the same people that have been in power just want their cake and to eat it too, basically. I mean, it's crazy to me that they're actually trying to fight for this from the standpoint of passing it off like it's not just the same old racket, just with unlimited power by the people that are already in power, basically. Do I kind of have that close to right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the SCORE Act, which is kind of the act that's really, I mean, I'm sure everyone kind of knows it at this point. The SCORE Act is definitely the favored legislation of the NCAA and the various conferences as well. It's the one that they are very much pushing forward. It's the one that they would like to see passed, because, and I think you put it best, it's the one that really, takes Congress out of the picture. It takes, everyone kind of out of the picture, and really just gives the protection to the NCAA that they feel that they're lacking in that. I think we've shown over the past 5 years that they are in fact lacking ever since the Alston decision in 2021. And the task force that Ross Dellinger reported on Friday is that with even more so, really, because what it very much does is while it's not the NCAA itself, while it's a new organization, new task force that would be temporary, would have a 2-year term, and give way to a new organization that would have kind of similar powers and would be negotiated as part of this task force. But it follows the same kind of theme, where it's like, get out of the way, don't do this yourselves. We want you involved here. We want you to give us the power, but we don't want you to necessarily do it yourselves. Give us the power to be able to make these rules. Give us the protection to be able to make these rules. Allow for our rules to be sustainable and to be non-challengeable in federal court, in state court, and we'll take care of it from there. And that's something where, again, the Constitution just doesn't really permit it.
How are they ever going to fix this? How are they? You get into a big warehouse and you can't leave until it's done, or even a small room. How do they fix, Sam? Is there ever going to be anyone that budges?
I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, there's such a big gap right now between. I mean, and this isn't even necessarily Republican versus Democrat thing, because I think there are parties on both sides. I mean, overwhelmingly, it does seem like Republicans more favor the SCORE Act, and Democrats, more favor the SAFE Act, or just not the SCORE Act. So to that extent, it has become very much a partisan issue. But at the same time, it's broader than that, and it's something where I think in a lot of ways, it's an issue of trust. It's an issue of, we do not trust the NCAA or similar actors or the people who have been in charge for this long period of time to be able to do this. And in order to fix it, we need something where we have to have different voices in the conversation. I think that's why there's so many people, and I'm by no means saying that this would be an easy path, but there's so many people advocating for collective bargaining, because that's what we see in the professional sports leagues. That's what we see works for the most part in the professional sports leagues. And it's something where you have a balance of power, where the powers of the league are being checked against the powers of the players, and the players have a legally sustainable, legally protected voice, while giving the leagues the antitrust protection to be able to have collective bargaining restrictions, or collective bargaining and competitive balance restrictions.
So the why not collective bargaining, is it basically just the player power thing? They don't want to share the power, or are there other reasons why maybe that doesn't make sense? And one reason being, the players don't necessarily want to do that at this point, because they give up some of their power potentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big part of it right there, because I think, as we've seen with Starbucks and Amazon and so many things over the, not only over the past few years, but over the course of decades of just looking at kind of the history of unionization in general, it's really hard to get a bunch of 21-year-olds to unionize. It's really hard to get a bunch of employees generally to unionize. And, unionizing across all of college sports, trying to defining what exactly that even looks like, trying to figure out the intricacies of the legal side of it, where right now under the current law, state employees, which would include college athletes, presumably at public institutions like Ohio State and the University of Alabama and Boise State University, they cannot unionize. They cannot enter into collective bargaining agreements unless allowed to do so by state law. And many states have restrictions on public employee collective bargaining. So that all has to be worked out. But also, I think a big part of it is, of course, not wanting to give the players kind of that legally protected voice, that kind of power. And at the same time, it's, kind of similar to the state law conversation. We also have, under current law, you have to be an employee to collectively bargain. You have to be an employee to unionize. And the NCAA, their line in the sand, they have a few lines in the sand right now. The big one and the one they're most adamantly, protecting is college athletes are not employees. And that's one where that does not mesh with the collective bargaining angle.
So there's the Nebraska and Playfly arbitration going on with the, the College Sports Commission. And heard that if, in fact, Nebraska was to win that, it could break everything from the House settlement. And yet, if they don't, then the state's going to probably rule against it anyway. And here we go. As you were mentioning, different states, different rules. How big of a deal is that? Because they had a hearing about a week or two ago, and there's nothing else been said, at least by the judge, since that time.
Yeah, nothing else been said on the Nebraska arbitration. And at the same time, we also have a much broader question, a much broader kind of hearing that's going to be held over the course of the next few weeks. We actually just got a reply brief in a few minutes before I joined the show from the class counsel at the Northern District of California, at the court that approved the House settlement, asking Magistrate Judge Nathaniel Cousins, who is appointed as the special master over any kind of disputes over the House settlement, where class counsel, Jeffrey Kessler and Steve Berman, the attorneys who represented the players and the House settlement negotiations and that lawsuit in general, they're asking Magistrate Judge Cousins to declare that MMR companies like Playfly, like Learfield, like all these other companies are not, quote unquote, associated entities and individuals under the settlement. And what that would mean is that their deals are just simply not subject to the College Sports Commission's review. And that would be huge. That would be obviously really big because it's not even a question of, we have this fair market value determination. We have this, whether it's for a valid business purpose determination, but that only applies to associated entities and individuals. It only applies to, as the settlement really reads, collectives, boosters companies, things like that. And to declare that MMR companies, which are right now funneling a lot of the monies into the players' pockets, to declare that those deals are not subject to College Sports Commission review at all would, as the NCAA is very much arguing here, as the College Sports Commission is very much arguing here, essentially allow for just very deep circumvention of this salary cap that they put together.
Sam Ehrlich with us on 365 Sports.
It occurred to me, Sam, and it's occurred to me a few times, but these schools say they want rules, and I don't think they really want rules. They only want rules when Ohio State's benefiting from it, but the moment Michigan can stand to benefit from it, they want to sue in state court to try to get the ruling in their favor, and that's why we just go round and round here. And yeah, that's why seemingly nothing ever gets done, right? Because you just take it to state court if you want to, and then get your favorable ruling there or whatever. But it's crazy. So, having said all this, and I know you're not sitting there armed with the perfect solution, because I don't think there is some perfect solution. But what would be a logical step you feel like would take that would make sense for everybody to try to go down a path that makes sense for everybody ultimately in the long run?
Yeah, there really only are two paths to kind of being able to, or really, let's say three paths to being able to kind of work all this out. The first path is looking kind of really sketchy, really unlikely right now, and that's just kind of letting the courts figure it out because, we have, at least if you look at the eligibility cases, for example, we have, three appellate courts, soon to be four appellate courts who have stepped in and said, well, wait a minute, we need a higher level of evidence here to be able to issue preliminary injunctions like the district courts did for Diego Pavia and Jet Elad and Cortez Bram and Tata Martinson. Those cases were premised on, those preliminary injunctions were premised on a very low level of evidence, not enough market definition. I'm not going to get too deep into the legal weeds here, but the circuit courts all said we need to have more. So the NCAA could see that as a win. They could see that as well. They overturned these preliminary injunctions. They said that it needs to be a very deep level of analysis here. So maybe we just wait it out. Maybe we just see whether that's going to work. But the problem is all those circuit courts didn't say that these rules are legal. They just said we need more evidence to figure out whether they are legal or not. And they didn't really, in their opinions, necessarily give a lot of confidence to the idea of they're legal. So that idea is probably out. The second one is, of course, the second path, of course, is going through Congress, trying to get something like the SCORE passed, or trying to get something like this new task force proposal passed. And that looks so incredibly unlikely right now because of just the divide that we have between, just looking at the Republicans and Democrats. Again, it's not strictly a bipartisan issue, but it does very much fall on party lines. And, we're running out of time before the 2026 midterm elections, where you look at, not to get too into politics here, but you look at some of the polling, and it does look like the Democrats are at least on track to take one of the two houses, which would very much complicate the passage of anything like the SCORE Act, and maybe even kill the chances of something like the SCORE Act passing. And the third path would be collective bargaining, which is mentioned. There's so many issues to get there, and it's something that the NCAA adamantly opposes, and something where you need to have the athletes unionize, and that's something where it's really difficult to make that happen. It's difficult to get them to want to do that. So yeah, it's hard to think of a perfect solution. It's hard to think of a way to move forward. It's hard to think of something where I wish I could tell you this is how we solve it, but I think anyone who tells you affirmatively that there's a clear way to solve it isn't looking at the big picture.
Well, and that's why it's good to have you on, because like some could say, well, CBA is just the way to go, but there are downfalls to that as well. And so nothing's perfect, like you said, but it's good to know that there's no magic wand that can be waved, and that they're trying to uncover every stone they possibly can to do everything they can. But this was a mess decades in the making, right, Sam? Like so many roads led to here. You were going to have to meet your maker at some point in time. I just don't think they realized that when that day came, it came faster than they expected. And they also didn't probably understand how complicated it would be to try to unravel all of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look back at 2021, and 2021, you think about it from the perspective of college sports law, was the biggest year in college sports history, because it's not only that, we had the Alston decision. It's not only that we had the start of NIL and kind of the start dates for legislation in Florida and Nebraska and Colorado, and all these state laws that were scheduled to kick in and force schools in those states to allow athletes to be able to profit off the name, image, and likeness. But it's really the timing of it all, too. I mean, I think what everyone kind of forgets 5 years later is that Alston was decided on June 21st, 2021, and the start dates of this legislation was July 1st, 2021. That was only 10 days. And the problem is the NCAA just did not have a plan for how to do things if they had lost Alston. They were very much banking on winning the Alston decision, and they ended up losing 9-0. And it's something where you look back at the history, and this is all foresight. It's all 2020, hindsight vision. It's not something where it's not even necessarily fair to critique the NCAA in this way, but you look back in 2015 and you look at the O'Bannon decision, and if you say, okay, well, the NCAA, if they had allowed athletes to be able to get a few $100s from the video game rights, and they had allowed for kind of more progressive measures. Or if you look back at Northwestern and say, well, if they had allowed Northwestern football players to unionize then and do all this, then we might not be in this situation right now. We might have a system where we have, we never had the Alston lawsuit in the first place. We never had the House lawsuit in the first place. But we play with the hand we're given, and I think there's a lot to critique about the NCAA's legal strategy leading up to this point, but now it's just a matter of how to fix it, and that is very, very murky.
Last question. The Brendan Sorsby story and Jeffrey Kessler, who was a part of the House settlement. When you saw that Sorsby hired him, did you feel like, okay, game on, or does that change maybe the landscape a little bit?
I think it's a very interesting hire. You don't hire someone like Jeff Kessler unless you're willing to really fight it out, or if you want to have significant leverage in some kind of negotiations. And it's hard to see behind the scenes. It's hard to kind of predict what Sorsby and his counsel are looking to do here. But I think if you look at the Trinidad Chambliss lawsuit and you look at his victory in that case, you see something perhaps similar brewing behind the scenes, where Chambliss argued, and successfully to that end, that the NCAA did not properly account for a medical condition that he had while at Ferris State, and that he should have been given a hardship waiver based on that. And I think it's, you can make an argument. I'm not saying I endorse this argument or I think that it's a legally sound argument, but you can make an argument. I think, Sorsby entering rehab is maybe leaning towards this. You can make an argument that gambling addiction is in fact a disease. It is in fact a medical issue, and to punish him for that disease would be illegal. I don't know whether that legal tactic would fly. I think whenever you're talking about disabilities, you're thinking about, and it's not necessarily an ADA issue, and I'm using that language maybe a little too broadly, but you think about reasonable accommodations. And I think if you're a sports league, you have a very strong argument to say, we can't allow someone who's betting on their own games into the league, even if they are rehabilitated. It just sends the wrong message. It really hurts the integrity of the product that we're selling here. But, the NCAA is not in the best legal position right now. And I think it'll remain to be seen what exactly Sorsby is doing here, what exactly his strategy here. I think there's a reasonable interpretation here where you're looking at his hiring of Jeffrey Kessler, and he's paying him a few $1,000s to be able to say that he hired Jeffrey Kessler and use that as some kind of leverage. But I think it's a wide spectrum here between that and him actually filing a lawsuit led by Jeffrey Kessler, and we'll have to see where it falls.
Man, Sam, I don't know how you guys keep up with it, but that's why you went to UMass Amherst and then Florida State and now at Boise State, and you're really good at it and make a lot of sense. It doesn't get too wordy and confusing. Thank you very much. Hope to have you on again and keep up with it again. Tell everybody about your tracker, the tracker that you have up on your Twitter feed too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to do it. And, anytime, happy to be on and explain about it. And yeah, I run a website called the College Sports Litigation Tracker. It's a personal project that I really kind of enjoy. I try to keep it updated whenever I can, but it provides information on, as many of the lawsuits as I can follow. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them are in state court right now, which get a little more difficult to track. But I probably have information on, several dozen, if not, I think I'm approaching 3 digits at this point, different lawsuits that the NCAA has been involved in or otherwise involving college sports over the past several years. So, collegesportslitigationtracker.com. In fact, I need to update it today because we have there's a lawsuit between Pepperdine University and Netflix that where Pepperdine, they had lost a motion to dismiss, and they actually just decided that they're going to appeal it to the Ninth Circuit. So that's what I watched. It's over that Mindy Kaling show about the basketball team and whether improperly used Pepperdine's logos in kind of in the show. So a lot of interesting cases like that.
I think any shot of Pepperdine's campus, though, from up on top of that mountain should be for everybody to be able to use whenever they want. Unbelievable. My goodness.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I used to live in that area, and absolutely beautiful.
Sam, good stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. My pleasure.
Sam Ehrlich, sports law, litigation, etc. Good stuff. Appreciate him helping understand things a little bit better.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about some of these things. Always good to have more expertise to try to break it down. So I really enjoyed a lot of what he had to say. Helped me understand things better, but particularly kind of the 3 routes they can take, and none of them are particularly great. But again, as we got to eventually, when I asked him about just kind of I mentioned the pushing things off for years and years. He talked about that. I mean, they created this bed. That's why I don't feel sorry for the NCAA. They created this situation entirely. This is of their own making. This is decades of denial and decades of politicking to keep the system in place the way that it was, and decades of just refusing to budge off their way of thinking, hoping that the man would never show up at the door, wondering where the athlete pay was, knowing full well he's showing up one day. You just don't know if it's going to be 2 days from now, if it's going to be 20 years from now. And in some cases, it was 20-something years. Plenty of people retired, left, and went, never felt the effects of it. But since 2021, as he said, it's been a great thing for people like himself and others in the sports law world, and for people like us to have things to talk about. It's been incredibly frustrating as well, but it's all part of just everything had to sort itself out legally from the way the system was ran for so long. So yeah, there's no more running from it, avoiding it. Like they're dealing with their day of reckoning, and it's been frustrating, but this is what happens when you have to untangle years and years and years of doing things a certain way that was found to not be the legal way to do things. And I will say on his website, like I know I went to it quite a bit for some of those eligibility cases that were going on mostly during the spring. And I think there's still some that are alive, like West Virginia. I know there was the Cal offensive lineman who was suing for another year, and then he ended up just going and getting, I think, picked up as like an undrafted free agent. So basically that doesn't matter anymore. His name escapes me, but yeah, that was one recently as well. We've talked about some of the others that kind of came and went during the springtime. So yeah, they've got that all covered, and just really anything and everything to trademark, like with Pepperdine being used in a TV show. So yeah, really cool site, especially for those of you who might be legal minded or just interested in that sort of niche. And he does a great job with it.
He does. All right. So thank you again to Sam Ehrlich for being a part of the show. Also, Matt Stahl and Brad Johnson. Enjoyed that. His comment, his two sons on another team, another school, and his career as well. I think that is it. We got to everything. Tomorrow, great lineup. Look forward to that. Let's spin the wheel.
All right. What's one childhood snack or drink that you wish would make a comeback? Example: Surge, Orbits, PB Crisp, Jello Pudding Pops, Butterfinger BB. That was a terrible Cosby impression.
Yeah, it was.
Kool-Aid Bursts. That's rusty. I hadn't broken it out in a while, and probably won't for a long while. But I can hear his commercial in my head. The Jello Pudding Pops. You know what I really liked, and I just saw it here recently. This is totally freaking random. Gosh, what is the name of the snack? It's like the dippin', it's like the Dunkaroos. That's what they're called, Dunkaroos. So basically it's just like a little plastic packaging that has a bunch of crackers, like little miniature crackers, and it's got like the dip cup that's just icing. It's like birthday cake icing basically, and you just dip the graham cracker kangaroo into the frosted sprinkled icing, and it's just probably so bad for you, but I loved it as a kid, and I actually recently saw it in a grocery store for the first time in forever. Maybe I just wasn't looking for it. That's probably what it was actually, but it was just kind of a nostalgia throwback to see that. And I would say one thing that did come to mind was I miss the Flintstones Push Pops. I don't see those very often, if at all. I don't know if they even still make them, but I really liked Flintstones Push Pops back in the day. Those were great. So those are a couple that come to mind for me. But yeah, like I guess the Dunkaroos are back or never left. So that I don't know that it applies here. I'm not sure about the Flintstone Pops.
All right, what's Surge?
It's like a Mountain Dew.
Orbits, that's like, I thought, like a travel
gum.
Yeah, okay. Peanut butter crisp, Jello. The Jello pudding pops were always great. I have never been somebody that, like, for whatever reason, like Butterfinger, Reese's. I know, Craig, you love those. Kool-Aid Burst are okay. Yeah, the Jello pudding pops, I guess. If anything,
those are just some
I don't even know if there was
examples.
an existence when I was a young kid, 50, 60 years ago.
Those are just examples. You not have one off the list?
What's the one snack? Yeah, or drink. Well, you have it, but you don't have it the way it was. The lemon lime, is it lemon lime Gatorade in a bottle?
They have that.
In a bottle?
Yeah.
Or is it a plastic?
Like the most basic flavor you can get.
Yeah, but is it in a bottle?
Like a glass bottle?
Yeah, like
no, of course it's not in a glass bottle.
Because it would break and people would have no. But that's what it is. Because back in the day, that's what it was. You took it to practice. You had your name on it, piece of tape. You put it in the cooler, and man, that was delicious. I just loved it.
You can go to the most broke down gas station in America. They got lemon lime Gatorade. They just don't have it in a glass bottle. Yeah.
The bottle with the ice. Like Cindy Crawford should have done that drink. Other than what was it? What did she do? Pepsi or Coke?
I mean, you're you're taking me back to a time when I was like 2 years old. So I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't have known it, but you knew it. All right. Let's go to the quizzes for today. There are 2 of them.
By the way, I don't think Flintstones Push Pops are still around based on my research here.
Oh, okay.
Dunkaroos, though, those are fine.
I've never had the Dunkaroos. On May 11th of 1980, which Major League Baseball legend stole second, third, and home in the same inning against the Reds, a feat not seen in the National League? Well, that takes care of some of it since Jackie Robinson in 1954, which was also the World Series. The Giants eventually won it with the Willie Mays catch. And I'm going to say, I don't know why, Greg, I know it's not Rose. It's not Ricky Henderson because it's the National League.
Ricky Henderson played in the National League.
He did a little bit. I want to say it's Tim Raines, but boy, Vince Coleman was like just so fast. Had 118 steals in 1 year. That's in your wheelhouse before you were born.
Yeah, my wheelhouse before I was born. I mean, any stolen base stat, and this will set up Andrew for him not wanting to do this or trying to play a trick will be to do a stolen base thing. That's the answer is not Ricky Henderson, but any stolen base stat, I'm going to say Ricky Henderson until I'm wrong enough where I'm not going to say it. So that's like my default is something incredible happened stolen base wise, Ricky Henderson. Like, I mean, if it was 1957, obviously it wouldn't be him, but I'm going to say Ricky Henderson and be wrong if I'm wrong.
The A's, I'm trying to think of what teams in the Padres.
Yeah.
That's what it was. All right, you want to say Ricky?
I'm going to say Ricky Henderson.
Ricky B. Ricky. Let's see what happens. Now,
Okay,
my
damn
God,
it.
of all the people, I would have lost a finger on this one. Yeah, no, we deserve that. Pete Rose?
I don't even know if Ricky Henderson played in 1980 now that I think about it, but no, he did. He was in 1979. So, yeah, but I mean, I was clearly wrong, and I'll eat that.
I can't believe this.
This would have been the last guy I would have guessed, though.
I mean, Rose was a hustler. He would throw himself around the bases and all that, but I never thought of him. Okay, top of the 7th, Riverfront Stadium, Charlie Hustle drew a walk and proceeded to dismantle the Reds' defense, swipe second and third before timing a double steal with Mike Schmidt to swipe home. Remains one of the most iconic displays of base running in Phillies history. A feat later matched by Jason Worth, of all people, with the Phillies in 2009.
Yeah, of all people's fitting because that's just the most random of names, Jason Worth. I clearly was well wrong on this. Is that the iconic photo of him sliding head first into home? The one that you see?
That's one.
Is that from that specifically?
Yeah, because there's the collision at home plate in the All-Star game with Ray Fosse, in the early 70s. But that was
seen that picture. Okay, now I see like the
there's a statue too right there.
I don't know that I've ever seen the part on the right before.
Look at that hair.
Well, I think. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. I've seen that photo plenty of times, but maybe just didn't know the context of it. So there you go. Now I won't just default to Ricky Henderson for every stolen base statistic, and definitely would have picked Rose last of the 4.
All right, so we're 0-1. We rarely ever not go at least 1-1, if not consistently 2-0. Quiz number 2 coming up. Which legendary linebacker is the only player in NFL history to be named Super Bowl MVP despite playing for the losing team? I know this right now. Don't change my mind.
Let's see. Which legendary the only player in the Super Bowl team? Chuck Howley?
Yep. Cowboys lost, I think, to Baltimore, and Chuck Howley was named the MVP. That was the Jim O'Brien field goal to win the Super Bowl. And Chuck Howley is absolutely the answer.
Yeah, I seem to recall reading that somewhere along the way.
But Ham and Lambert with Pittsburgh never lost a Super Bowl game. And Butkus, I'm not so sure, ever played in one either. So there we go. Chuck Howley, let's see the answer. Bingo.
After recording 2 interceptions and a forced fumble in a 16-13 loss to the Colts in Super Bowl 5, Howley became the first defensive player, non-quarterback, to win the award. Famously, he said the honor meant nothing to him because the team lost, and he only accepted it because the prize was a new station wagon he wanted to give to his wife as a gift. That's cool. Yeah, definitely a sign of the times. The station wagon as the big prize for a Super Bowl MVP versus, I guess, the Disneyland trip. or Disney World trip. But yeah, I seem to recall reading about this just over the years. So that was when we got right, thankfully, to avoid going 0 for 2 here.
All right, so we went 1-1. That is the minimum requirement for what we do.
By the way, I also looked at Ricky Henderson's career. He did play for the Mets, just looking at National League. Played for the Dodgers at the very end of his career, but was with the Padres like 3-4 different times.
Yep.
And I definitely remember him playing for the Padres a little bit. So, all right, next up here.
Kyle Visser said no, he wasn't, because back in the day there was no interleague, but he played for those teams that Craig just mentioned in the National League. Yeah. All right, now to the poll questions. And I saw this elbow. It was flagrant. Was the Wemby and Reed elbow call correct? 62% of you say right call, just a foul. Should be a suspension. Was he ejected?
Yeah.
That was good enough for that. I don't think it's a suspension, but you wonder if it had been someone else like a Draymond Green or Dennis Rodman back in the day, but Wemby throws the elbow and it was right at the neck of Reed. I mean, that could have been a bad situation.
It was not anything you could spin off as being unintentional.
No,
like,
he was
very
pissed.
clearly intentional. And he got booted. So, yeah, I think I would say right call, just a foul. Obviously, he has no wiggle room the rest of the playoffs, though. Like, if he does anything across the line, then I think you're suddenly going into, like, must-suspend territory. So he's got to be careful. But, yeah, that was just a moment where the intrusive thoughts won for Wembanyama. And he did something that you can't do it. It was dirty play and dirty elbow, and I understand frustrations and all that, but as a guy who's one of the faces of the league, you got to be better than that, especially postseason.
And now you might have some trolls trying to get you you will have some trolls out of the teams trying to get you frustrated and lose your temper. All right. The second poll question: is ranch a must-have for your pizza? What?
Yeah, I don't know why you're responding that way.
A must-have?
Well, it's asking the question, so your answer is no. Keep it off the pie.
Keep it off the pie. I've had some chicken type of pizza, flat, thin crust that might have some sort of what looks like a ranch dressing, but it's not no way. No.
Well, I mean, it's also not necessarily on the pizza. You just dip it. It's like ketchup for French fries or something. So it's not a must-have for me, but I do enjoy it from time to time. And actually, I just had pizza on Saturday, and I had some ranch to the side. So, it's a game changer. I don't like, though, I've had pizzas that are fine, but I don't seek them out. The ones that have basically the Alfredo sauce as their base sauce. I don't really like that. Or a ranchy type of white sauce. Yeah, I don't like that. I just like it as a dipping option.
You got to learn a little bit about Craig's Webster's or thesaurus. When he says fine, it means it's fine.
It's fine. It means what it means.
It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's just fine. It's fine. All right, so the answer, 53% say no, keep it off my pie. I'm a part of that one.
Yeah, 53%. I don't want it on the pizza, but dipping option, then yeah, we're good to go there. So.
All right, there we go. Very nice. Andrew Valade, King Jiu-Jitsu. Houston was being a part of the show today. Logan, Garrett, Rez runs the mothership, and we hope you appreciate and also like the guests that we have, because we appreciate you for being here every day. 365 Sports. We'll see you tomorrow at 3. For Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. This is the Smoke Show on 365 Sports, and good night.